Hey there, sleepyheads. Welcome back to the channel. Before we drift into tonight's tale of the Secrets Beneath Ooo, I'd love to know where in the world you are watching from tonight and what time it is for you right now. Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. Tonight we journey not across the familiar hills and rivers of Ooo, nor through the gentle rustle of the Candy Kingdom's forests, but down, deeper, beneath the very surface of this land we think we know so well. Beneath the bustling town, the quiet lakes, and the high peaks of mountains, there lies a world that few eyes have ever seen, and even fewer have dared to imagine. A world of shadowed corridors, humming machines, and silent chambers where time itself seems to pause. It is a place forgotten, or perhaps intentionally hidden, where the remnants of an era long before the present Ooo still lie in patient slumber. As we begin to descend, imagine the ground beneath you softening, opening into hollow spaces where the air carries the faint scent of earth and something older than the very hills above. The walls around you are smooth in some places, jagged in others, as though the hand of some ancient builder worked alongside the hand of nature itself. Every step is cushioned by the soft, settled dust of ages, a quiet witness to the passage of time. In the distance, almost too subtle to notice at first, there is a low hum, a resonance that seems to vibrate gently against the bones of the earth. It is steady, rhythmic, and hypnotic, like the pulse of a heart that has never ceased its beat. We do not know exactly what created this hum. Perhaps it is a forgotten engine left running through centuries of silence. Perhaps it is a kind of magic, bound into the very bedrock, patiently guarding the secrets of a civilization that existed long before even the Mushroom War reshaped the surface of Ooo. There are hints, scattered and elusive, of pre-war bunkers and laboratories buried deep beneath the forests and mountains, their locations erased from memory but not from existence. Some speak of vast halls where machines with gears and cogs larger than houses lie in eternal pause, and where soft lights flicker like distant stars through cracks in metal casings. These are places that do not seek attention, yet their presence whispers to those who pause long enough to listen. And listen, we must. The deeper we travel, the more we notice how Ooo above seems to fade, replaced by a quiet hum of anticipation. You may imagine it as a lullaby from the earth itself, a song sung in frequencies beyond human hearing, urging all who wander here to tread softly, to respect the stillness that blankets this hidden world. Shadows stretch along the walls, some solid, some wavering like smoke in a gentle breeze. The passages twist in ways that feel almost organic, as though the tunnels themselves breathe in the life of the surface and exhale their own quiet energy. Every so often, a chamber opens into a space so vast that it swallows light entirely, leaving only a soft, reflective glow emanating from the walls themselves. The hum deepens here, resonating in your chest, until it feels as though the entire subterranean world has become a single, living entity, pulsing with the memories of countless generations. It is here that you might imagine ancient machines now long dormant, standing like sentinels, their forms obscured by dust and time. Perhaps a lever hangs frozen mid-pull. Perhaps a console still flickers faintly with a language we can no longer read, yet which seems familiar, as if a dream we once had has found its echo in metal and stone. There is a certain comfort in a rhythm that draws the mind inward, slowing thoughts as though they too have been lulled by the subterranean song. Even the shadows seem gentle, brushing past with no threat, only a quiet reminder of the worlds beneath our own. One might imagine that the air itself is heavier with stories, carrying the whispers of engineers, scientists, and perhaps even beings whose names have been forgotten by history. And in these whispers, there is a promise that even though the surface has changed, even though kingdoms rise and fall, these hidden places continue to watch, to remember, and to wait. As we wander further into the depths, the hum seems to shift, faintly, almost as if it were responding to our presence. It does not speak in words, but in vibrations, subtle pulses that travel along the walls, the floors, and even through the bones of those who venture here. Some say that this resonance is a remnant of the pre-war power sources, energy so potent and carefully guarded that it cannot fully fade, even across centuries. Perhaps it was designed to protect, perhaps to observe, or perhaps it simply continues out of inertia, a lullaby for a world that has long since moved on. And here, beneath mountains that once sheltered kingdoms, in forests that once flourished with life, we find ourselves standing at the threshold of one of these ancient chambers. The walls are etched with marks, symbols that we cannot fully interpret, yet they carry a gentle authority. Perhaps they are warnings, perhaps records, perhaps even prayers whispered long ago. Light seems hesitant here, refracting off metal and stone in strange patterns, illuminating the room just enough to hint at what lies beyond. In the quiet, the hum becomes almost a companion, wrapping around you, soft and unyielding, guiding you deeper into the secrets that Ooo has long kept hidden. And as we pause to take in this chamber, there is a sense of reverence, a feeling that we are not merely observing, but participating in a world that has been breathing quietly beneath our feet for millennia. The machines, the tunnels, the dust, the hum, they are all pieces of a story larger than any one kingdom, any one creature, or even any one time. They remind us that beneath the surface the world holds memories, both mechanical and magical, and that even in the absence of life, there is presence. Here in this calm, dimly lit expanse, one cannot help but imagine the soft footsteps of those who once walked these halls, their voices long faded, yet somehow lingering in the vibrations that echo endlessly through the stone. Perhaps they are engineers, perhaps explorers, perhaps beings of power who sought to leave something behind, something that would persist even as the surface world changed around them. And in this realization, the hum is no longer merely a sound, but a story, a gentle, persistent reminder of the depth of history that sleeps beneath Ooo, waiting for those patient enough to listen and feel its quiet song. As we linger in this vast chamber, the quiet hum seems to shift subtly, as though adjusting to the rhythm of our breathing, or perhaps responding to the very presence of curiosity. You might notice that the walls are not simply stone or metal, but a strange fusion of both, as if ancient architects had coaxed raw earth into machinery and machines into the earth itself. Pipes, long and coiled like slumbering serpents, run along the walls and ceilings, their ends disappearing into darkness, suggesting tunnels that stretch far beyond what we can see. Each pipe is coated with a fine layer of dust, yet faint traces of old energy trace delicate lines along their surfaces, like veins carrying a heartbeat from a forgotten era. Here it is easy to imagine the world above Ooo and its colorful, chaotic, vibrant existence, and how removed it is from this silent, subterranean symphony. Above, time moves with laughter, chatter, and the quiet clinking of mugs in taverns. Below, it moves differently. Time here seems patient, unhurried, as if each second stretches and folds into the next, unnoticed and unmeasured. Even the hum has a cadence, not like a clock or a drum, but like a lullaby sung in frequencies that the mind recognizes before the ears can hear. It is a resonance that travels through stone and metal, whispering to the imagination, coaxing it to wonder without ever forcing an answer. Along one side of the chamber, faint outlines appear, almost hidden beneath the dust and shadows. They are the shapes of consoles, their buttons long frozen, screens dimmed into dark, reflective mirrors. One might imagine a hand resting on these consoles centuries ago, fingertips tracing unknown symbols, guiding machines to hum and whir, turning energy into something both functional and beautiful. And though the hands have long since gone and the eyes that watch the screens have long since closed, the machines continue their quiet vigil, humming softly, as if dreaming of a time when they were not yet forgotten. In another corner you might see tall cabinets, the doors slightly ajar, revealing spools of wire, coils of metal, and fragments of glassy components that glimmer faintly in the soft light. Each piece is a relic, yet also a puzzle, a small whisper from the minds who created them. Were these machines designed to power entire cities, or perhaps to maintain the balance of magical energies that flow through Oo's crust? Perhaps they were neither, or perhaps both. And in the uncertainty, there is wonder. The beauty of these remnants is not in their function alone, but in the sense that they were once part of something larger, something deliberate, now reduced to whispers beneath the surface. As you wander further into the chamber, the hum begins to thrum a little stronger, filling the silence with gentle vibration that seems to align with your heartbeat. There is a feeling here that the machines are not lifeless, not in the sense of being inert, but in the sense that they remember, not with consciousness as we know it, but with purpose and intention, preserved in the rhythm of moving parts and latent energy. Perhaps they are keeping vigil, or perhaps they are dreaming, and their dreams have shaped the very tunnels we walk upon. In this way, the boundary between machinery and magic becomes faint, blurred, almost imperceptible, leaving only the quiet recognition that we are walking amidst something ancient and profoundly alive in its own way. Here and there, walls bend and split, revealing smaller passageways that lead further down. Narrow corridors that coil like threads through the earth. Some are lined with faintly glowing glyphs, symbols that feel older than the surface kingdoms, older than most histories told aloud. You might imagine these glyphs pulsing softly with energy, as if each one is a word, a sentence, a story, suspended in the stone itself. They do not call out. They do not demand attention. They simply exist, waiting for the patient eyes and quiet mind to trace their meaning, to sense the whisper of something beyond human comprehension. As we move along, the hum seems to carry voices, not words, not thoughts, but echoes of intention, fragments of memory preserved in vibrations. Some might call it the heartbeat of pre-war power, others the lingering essence of sleeping gods, or perhaps a combination of both. Each note is soft, coaxing the imagination to wander further, to reach deeper into the stillness. You may feel, as you listen, that the very ground beneath your feet is alive with history, and that the world above has never truly touched these chambers, except in the quiet echoes that occasionally rise from below. And as we pause again, letting the hum wash over us, there is the faintest shift in the air. Perhaps a door, long hidden, slides open in a whisper, or a section of wall shaped by time and machinery reveals a faint glimmer of something unexpected. Light dances along the edges, catching on metal, illuminating shapes that are difficult to define the outlines of tools, the skeletal frames of machines, the delicate geometry of mechanisms that might have once turned, powered, or guided some greater force. The glow is gentle, comforting, and it invites the imagination to fill in the gaps, to wander through this quiet world of forgotten technology and silent reverie. As we step further into the quiet, the air grows cooler, carrying the subtle scent of damp stone and long-settled dust. The hum beneath us seems to shift slightly, resonating through the floor as if the earth itself were acknowledging our presence. The corridors we follow twist gently, curving in ways that suggest deliberate design rather than natural formation, as though some ancient hand had sculpted these tunnels with careful purpose. Shadows pool in corners and along walls, but they do not feel threatening. Instead, they seem protective, like guardians of secrets too delicate to reveal in harsh light. Every so often, the tunnel opens into small chambers, each unique in its architecture and design. Some are lined with racks of machinery that resemble engines long since stilled, their intricate gears and pistons frozen mid-motion, waiting patiently for a hand that will never return. Others contain consoles covered in dust, buttons faded, screens darkened, yet faint traces of light shimmer along their edges as if the circuits still dream of action. One can almost imagine that these machines remember what they were made to do, holding in their silent forms the echoes of a world that existed before even the oldest surface kingdoms took shape. Here the imagination begins to weave stories from the faint traces left behind. Perhaps these chambers were once laboratories where scholars and engineers worked tirelessly to create a future that would outlast them. Perhaps they were power stations, designed to channel and stabilize energy in ways both practical and magical. And perhaps, just perhaps, some of these devices were more than tools, extensions of minds and intentions, waiting quietly beneath the surface for the right moment to awaken. Each machine seems to hum softly in sympathy with the larger, persistent resonance that flows through the tunnels, a lullaby of industry and magic intertwined. Along the walls, faint glyphs and markings suggest that whoever built this place was not merely functional in their design, but also reflective. Symbols that hint at knowledge, at philosophy, at rituals meant to honor what lay beneath. Some markings are geometric, precise, mathematical. Others are flowing, organic, like a language borrowed from the patterns of nature itself. These etchings speak not in words, but in feeling. They convey care, a reverence for the machinery, the chambers, the hum that moves through them. And in these quiet symbols, one senses the patience of a civilization that understood the depth of time, that anticipated centuries in which these corridors would lie forgotten, yet never entirely silent. As we continue along one winding passage, a low, metallic echo greets our steps, soft and hollow. It seems almost as if the tunnels themselves are breathing, exhaling slowly through pipes and vents that disappear into darkness. Occasionally, small motes of light flicker along the walls, bioluminescent fungi perhaps, or stray reflections from polished metal, adding a delicate shimmer to the gloom. It is in these moments that the hum becomes more than sound. It becomes texture, a tangible presence that one can feel brushing against the skin, filling the chest, and slowing the mind. Thoughts begin to soften, as if the resonance itself encourages reflection, encouraging a kind of quiet wonder that is almost meditative. Some chambers are larger, their ceilings lost in shadow, revealing the scale of this subterranean world. In these spaces, remnants of pre-war technology cluster like silent monuments. Towers of metal rise from the floors, encrusted with dust, but still hinting at complex mechanisms within. Coils of wire and tubing twist through the air and along walls like veins, connecting chambers, transmitting energy, or perhaps thoughts, memories, or magic, too subtle to name. It is difficult to say if the designs are purely mechanical or imbued with something that surpasses technology, an integration of force and intention, machinery and spirit. In these moments, one senses the quiet grandeur of this hidden world, a world that has persisted in patient slumber while centuries passed above ground. Every so often the hum seems to shift in tone, pulsing in gentle waves that suggest presence not merely of machines but perhaps of awareness. A particular chamber might contain a structure that resembles a great generator, its form both mechanical and organic, as though it were grown from stone and metal simultaneously. Faint pulses of energy ripple along its surface, illuminating ancient symbols carved into surrounding walls. It is not threatening, only patient and observant, as if waiting for those who wander here to recognize that they are not alone, that the subterranean world watches with a calm, silent intelligence. And yet for all the complexity and mystery, there is comfort in these depths. The hum, the stillness, the shadows and flickering lights all blend together to create a space where the mind can wander gently. One can imagine entire civilizations passing above while this world below continues undisturbed, its rhythms unchanged, a sanctuary for machinery, magic, and memory. Even as the tunnels twist and divide, one feels guided by an invisible current, a sense of direction that is not dictated by signs or maps, but by intuition and the slow, persistent heartbeat of the hidden Ooo. As we approach a wider hall, the hum deepens, resonating against metal and stone in waves that brush against the ears and chest. The walls seem to vibrate with memory, as if holding fragments of long-lost conversations, instructions, or warnings. Dust stirs in response to the faintest movement, drifting lazily in shafts of light that fall from cracks above, giving a sense of gentle motion, even in the stillness. The machines here are larger, more complex, and their presence is commanding, yet there is no menace. Instead, there is a quiet majesty, a reminder that beneath the familiar lands of Ooo lies a world of intention, of creation, of patient observation, and that even in silence, stories continue to unfold. And as we pause in the center of this hall, surrounded by sleeping mechanisms and the steady, low hum, one can almost sense a convergence of time and space. The echoes of the past mingle with the present, creating a delicate harmony that exists beyond the surface conflicts and chaos of Ooo. It is a lullaby of endurance, a quiet reminder that beneath the world, we know there are foundations, secrets, and energies that continue to exist patiently, waiting, dreaming. The deeper we move into this subterranean expanse, the more the tunnels widen, giving space to chambers that feel almost cathedral-like in scale. Here, ceilings disappear into shadow, and walls are lined with structures so intricate that it is difficult to tell where the machinery ends and the stone begins. Pipes twist like roots through the darkness, carrying faint traces of energy that hum softly in response to our presence. The sound grows richer here, almost melodic, a quiet chorus that seems to vibrate in harmony with the listener's own heartbeat. There is a sense that the world beneath Ooo is alive in ways subtle yet profound, and that it has been waiting patiently for centuries, observing in silence. In some corners of this hall, remnants of technology lie scattered like artifacts in a museum that time forgot. Broken gears, fractured circuits, and coils of metal glint faintly in the soft ambient light. They do not scream of human hands or tell us their purpose plainly. Instead, they invite contemplation. One might imagine that long ago these machines were instruments of wonder, capable of feats we can scarcely comprehend. Perhaps they were energy sources, as some speculate, powering cities and kingdoms that no longer exist. Perhaps they were guardians, created to maintain balance, not just in the physical world, but in the very magic that pulses beneath Ooo. Alongside these machines are subtle hints of life that once moved through these tunnels. The faint indentation of boots in the dust, marks on the walls that suggest tools were once leaned against them, or panels opened and closed. It is tempting to imagine the engineers, scholars, and caretakers who walked here, voices muted by centuries, leaving only traces that the earth itself has preserved. And as we imagine them, the hum seems to acknowledge us, as if sensing our quiet curiosity, responding in rhythm and resonance. There is no alarm, no hostility, only a soft welcome into the stories embedded in metal and stone. In the very center of one chamber, we come upon something different, a structure that seems almost alive, a combination of machine architecture and organic geometry. It rises from the floor like a silent sentinel, its surface etched with complex runes, circuits, and symbols that pulse faintly with energy. It is difficult to tell whether it is designed to produce energy, to observe, or to dream. Perhaps it does all three. The hum around it seems to swell, not in volume, but in presence, like a gentle acknowledgement of the significance of this place. Standing before it, one can almost sense the intentions of its creators, a careful blend of purpose and reverence, of function and quiet artistry. The corridors branching off from this hall seem to beckon us further, though each one is darker, narrower, and more mysterious than the last. Some tunnels lead to rooms that appear to have been living quarters, spaces that may once have provided shelter for those who maintain the machinery. Beds of metal and stone, small consoles, and storage alcoves hint at lives intertwined with these systems. Here it is possible to feel a connection not only to the machines themselves, but to the human stories entwined with them. Even in absence, there is a trace of tenderness, a whisper of care for the world above, preserved in the hum and in the stillness of these chambers. Every so often, we notice subtle flickers of movement in the shadows. Perhaps it is dust drifting on a stray current of air, or perhaps something else entirely. The mind begins to wonder if these tunnels are truly empty, or if they are inhabited by entities who have adapted to this quiet, hidden world. In Adventure Time lore, there are hints of creatures who thrive unseen, guardians or dreamers who inhabit the spaces between worlds. It is not a frightening thought here, only a reminder that Oo's mysteries are deep, and that the surface world is but a fraction of what truly exists. As we continue to explore, the hum begins to blend with another sound, so faint that it might almost be imagined, a rhythm that feels older than the machinery, older than any record of civilization we know. It is as if the tunnels themselves are alive with memory, vibrating with the echoes of the past, and perhaps even the faintest traces of dreaming. Some theorize that the pre-war energy sources were not just mechanical, but also magical, channels for forces that could resonate across time. Perhaps this is what we are hearing, a lullaby left behind, singing softly through corridors that have known both life and silence. In the quiet, it is possible to pause and feel the stillness, to recognize the patterns of light and shadow, to trace the hum with your own breath. One senses that this world is patient, that it has endured long before Ooo as we know it, and it will continue to endure long after. The hidden chambers, the sleeping machines, the faint traces of ancient life, all of it persists in calm, eternal rhythm. There is no rush, no urgency, only the gentle cadence of existence beneath the world we take for granted, a secret realm of energy, memory, and quiet stories waiting to be discovered. And so we stand in the center of this great subterranean hall, the hum surrounding us like a soft, invisible tide. Light glimmers off the edges of machines, walls, and runes, casting shadows that shift as if the very stone were breathing. Dust drifts lazily through faint shafts of light, settling softly on the floors and consoles. The quiet envelops us, wrapping around the mind and body, encouraging our thoughts to slow, to wander gently through possibilities and imagination. Here, beneath the known world, there is peace, even amidst the traces of ancient power. As we pause, it is easy to imagine that every machine, every chamber, every pulse of the hum is a story, patiently waiting to be felt. And though we have only begun to scratch the surface of what lies beneath Ooo, we are already touched by the quiet majesty of this hidden world. The whispers of history, of engineering, of magic, and of the silent patience of sleeping powers all combine in a delicate lullaby. It is a lullaby that calls to the imagination, encourages gentle exploration, and invites us to continue our descent, deeper into the secrets that Ooo has kept for centuries, beneath the feet of the unsuspecting surface. Now that we have lingered in the quiet, echoing halls beneath Ooo, we turn our attention to the heartbeat of this hidden world, the machinery of the old world. These are not mere remnants of human invention, nor simple relics of technology left to decay. They are the skeletons of intention, the silent companions of a civilization that once reached far deeper into both energy and imagination than we can fully comprehend. As we step closer, the hum that guided us through the tunnel seems to swell, surrounding us with gentle resonance, a lullaby of steel, stone, and something more elusive, something almost alive. Imagine a chamber larger than any palace above ground, its walls lined with pipes and conduits that stretch into darkness, disappearing into places unseen. The machines here are enormous, their surfaces etched with designs that seem both purposeful and ornamental. Gears larger than boulders rest frozen mid-spin, their teeth interlocking perfectly, as though caught in a single, eternal motion. Levers and valves stand poised as if waiting for hands that will never return. Some devices give the impression of sophistication, elegant in their construction, while others are strange and alien, almost organic in their forms, with curves and coils that resemble the natural growth patterns of vines or coral. The air here carries a faint metallic scent, tempered by the coolness of stone and the subtle, lingering aroma of energy, as if the walls themselves exhale the memory of power long dormant. Dust drifts lazily in slanted beams of light, and as it falls, it settles on consoles, wheels, and panels, softening the hard lines of machinery and giving the room a timeless calm. It is easy to imagine the people who once tended these machines moving with care, their hands brushing against surfaces in reverence, their eyes reading glyphs and symbols that we can no longer interpret. Even in absence, their presence seems to linger, infused into the rhythm of the humming engine. Some of the larger devices are difficult to categorize. They could be power generators, their cores pulsing faintly with residual energy that refuses to fade completely, or perhaps they were tools to channel magic in ways the surface world cannot perceive. Pipes and tubes snake from one machine to another, connecting chambers with a complexity that hints at purpose both practical and profound. Occasionally, you might notice small flickers of light along these conduits like fireflies trapped in glass, signaling that some energy, however faint, still courses through them. It is not enough to animate the devices fully, yet it is enough to suggest that they are not truly lifeless, only dormant. As we move through the hall, the hum grows warmer, more rhythmic, as though responding to our presence, or perhaps continuing a pattern that began long before we arrived. One cannot help but wonder what these machines were meant to achieve. Were they the engines of industry, powering cities and fortresses above ground? Or were they more subtle, designed to harmonize with the magical ley lines of Ooo, to maintain a balance between natural forces and the energies of the pre-war civilizations? The answer is not clear, and perhaps it was never meant to be clear. The machines themselves tell their story not through explanation, but through presence, through careful design, through the patient perfection of gears and coils, through the quiet hum that fills the chamber. In certain corners you may notice clusters of smaller devices, each different from the others, yet connected in a web of complexity that defies immediate understanding. Some appear to be measuring instruments, their dials and levers frozen mid-calculation. Others seem to be conduits or amplifiers designed to direct energy along specific pathways, though to what end remains a question. And yet none of it feels abandoned. There's a sense of ongoing purpose, as if the machines continue their work silently, dreaming in cycles too slow for the surface world to notice, maintaining a legacy that transcends generations. Faint inscriptions and markings run along many of the consoles and panels. They are not written in words we know, but in symbols and diagrams that convey instruction, intent, and perhaps even philosophy. Some suggest technical schematics, others seem almost ceremonial, as if the builders understood that function and reverence could coexist. In tracing these marks with the imagination, one feels the careful, deliberate minds that crafted them, beings who combined ingenuity with a deep awareness of the world around them, and of the forces, both magical and mundane, that flowed beneath Ooo. As we continue to wander through this hall of machinery, the scale becomes even more apparent. Towers of metal rise toward shadowed ceilings, twisting and coiling in impossible patterns. Valves hiss faintly with the release of trapped air, and the occasional shiver of vibration through the stone suggests that some mechanisms are still active in ways subtle enough to escape immediate notice. One can almost hear the whisper of energy moving through the conduits, threading through the chamber in invisible streams, connecting machines in a quiet web of intent and purpose. And yet, there is also beauty here. Not the bright, glittering beauty of the surface, but a serene, reflective beauty, found in the symmetry of gears, the deliberate elegance of pipework, and the faint, pulsing glow of residual energy. Light interacts gently with these surfaces, reflecting off polished metal and etched stone, casting moving patterns that shift as you walk, creating a dance of shadow and illumination. It is a calm, quiet spectacle, as if the machinery itself were aware of its place and content in its stillness. Occasionally, small details reveal more about the world above. A fragment of writing in an unknown script, a chipped insignia, or the faint outline of a map suggests that these machines were once part of a network, tied to surface kingdoms, cities, or even hidden fortresses. Perhaps they were created to protect, to observe, or to guide, not simply in the mechanical sense, but in a way that intertwined with the flow of history and magic above ground. And as we consider this, the hum resonates more fully, a reminder that beneath every quiet chamber lies a network of connections, invisible yet enduring, that speaks of foresight and care. Even in corners where the machines have decayed, the remnants themselves hold significance. Rusted wheels, cracked screens, and twisted conduits suggest stories of failure, of adaptation, of time wearing slowly against human ambition. And yet they do not feel sad or desolate. There is a calmness to decay here, a quiet acceptance of the passage of centuries, as though even broken machinery has a role in the slow, deliberate dance of energy and history beneath Ooo. The hum continues, steady and unwavering, threading all these pieces together, connecting functioning mechanisms with those long dormant, reminding the listener that even in stillness there is life, and even in silence there is presence. Here in this chamber of the old world's machinery, one can almost sense the rhythm of a civilization long gone. Their care, their ingenuity, their reverence for both technology and magic, all linger like a gentle echo, touching the imagination and urging exploration. And as we pause for a moment, feeling the hum resonate softly in our chest, there is a sense of quiet wonder, a reminder that beneath Oo's surface lies not just tunnels and stone, but a living memory of purpose, invention, and the delicate, enduring heartbeat of a world that continues to whisper patiently through steel and shadow. As we move deeper into this vast chamber of machinery, the passages begin to branch in ways that suggest careful planning rather than random construction. Some corridors lead to smaller rooms filled with neatly arranged panels and devices, each one quiet and precise, like instruments awaiting a conductor's hand. Others open into enormous halls where machines tower overhead, their forms so large that they seem to touch the shadows of the ceiling, reaching upward as though striving for some unseen purpose. The hum we have followed grows and shifts subtly here, blending with faint echoes that seem to travel from machine to machine, as if the devices themselves are conversing in a language beyond our understanding. In one particularly long corridor, we encounter a series of console clusters, their screens darkened but still etched with intricate symbols. Dust has settled into grooves along the panels, but traces of faint light shimmer along the edges, hinting that residual energy still courses through the circuits. Some panels show diagrams that might have guided energy flow, while others appear almost ornamental, etched with looping patterns that seem to pulse in tandem with the hum around us. One might imagine the hands of engineers or scholars moving over these panels centuries ago, guiding power, observing readings, and ensuring that each mechanism performed its role with quiet perfection. As we step further, the machinery begins to take on forms that suggest integration with the natural world. Pipes twist like the branches of trees, conduits curve like rivers, and metal surfaces reflect light in patterns reminiscent of flowing water. It is as though the designers of this old world sought harmony with the land itself, blending science, engineering, and perhaps even magic into a single, cohesive whole. There is no harshness here, no sense of cold, impersonal technology. Instead, every machine feels purposeful and deliberate, a quiet testament to the patience and foresight of those who built them. Here and there, we notice chambers that seem to serve as junctions or control centers. Gears and levers of unimaginable size rest along the walls, while massive conduits snake into the shadows, carrying energy or information from one part of the network to another. Some of these junctions feature glass panels etched with cryptic runes, symbols that seem to vibrate faintly with the hum, as if alive with memory. These spaces evoke awe, not fear, reminding us that technology can be more than functional. It can be elegant, deliberate, and intertwined with forces that we may never fully understand. Occasionally, one comes across rooms where the machines appear almost organic, like sleeping creatures. Coils and pistons pulse gently with residual energy, as if inhaling and exhaling in a rhythm imperceptible to the surface world. Some engineers and theorists in Oo's history may have speculated that these machines were designed not only to channel power, but to dream, holding fragments of knowledge, intention, or magic within their cores. In these moments, it is possible to imagine that the devices themselves are aware of the world above, quietly observing, preserving, and guiding the flow of energy without interruption for centuries. Among these mechanical giants, small details stand out: a drawer slightly ajar, revealing coils of copper wire carefully wound, a faint etching on a panel that might have been a signature, a date, or a code, or a tiny screen flickering softly, hinting at circuits that continue their work despite the passage of ages. These remnants carry the intimacy of the world that created them, a quiet connection to hands that once moved over these surfaces, eyes that once studied these mechanisms, and minds that envisioned a future intertwined with the hidden forces of Ooo. The hum, now rich and textured, guides us toward a particularly grand chamber. Its ceiling is lost in shadow, and walls are lined with machinery so complex that it is difficult to comprehend in a single glance. Towers of metal and coils of energy stretch in every direction, connected by pipes and conduits that pulse softly, casting gentle light and shadow across the chamber. It is here that one begins to sense the vast scale of the old world's ingenuity. Energy flows along unseen pathways. Circuits intertwine like the roots of a massive tree, and the hum itself feels alive, not merely sound, but presence. In some areas of this grand chamber, we notice subtle signs of wear panels slightly bent, coils shifted, and dust settled unevenly. It is a quiet reminder that even the most enduring creations are subject to time. And yet these imperfections do not diminish the majesty of the space. Instead, they enhance it, showing that this machinery has endured patiently through centuries, witnessing the slow transformations of Ooo above while remaining steadfast in its hidden vigil. As we pause in the center of this chamber, the hum fills every corner, vibrating through stone, metal, and bone alike. It is not a harsh or alarming sound, but a gentle, enveloping presence that slows the mind, encourages reflection, and invites the imagination to wander. In this quiet, one can sense the intention behind every design, every coil and panel, every subtle pulse of energy, the quiet wisdom of a civilization that understood that power must be patient, deliberate, and respectful of the forces it channels. And as we linger, it becomes clear that the machinery of the old world is more than just metal and energy. It is memory, intention, and watchfulness, preserved beneath Ooo in quiet, deliberate slumber. It reminds us that beneath the playful, chaotic surface of the land, there exists a hidden layer of precision, care, and enduring wonder, waiting for those who move slowly enough to notice and listen closely enough to understand. As we leave the grand chamber, the corridors narrow and twist, leading us deeper into the subterranean labyrinth. The hum continues, now layered with subtle undertones, almost as if different sections of machinery are harmonizing with one another in a quiet symphony. Dust swirls lazily in the soft light filtering from cracks in the walls, tracing delicate patterns that seem to mark the paths of ancient energy flows. Every step feels measured, as if the tunnels themselves encourage us to move slowly, to absorb each detail, and to honor the patient vigilance of the machines that dwell here. Along the walls, we notice alcoves containing smaller devices, each one distinct yet interconnected. Some appear to be control units, with panels covered in faintly glowing symbols. Others are storage units, filled with coils, gears, and fragments of tools whose purposes are long forgotten. It is easy to imagine the engineers who tended these chambers, moving with deliberate care, adjusting levers, reading gauges, and consulting screens etched with a language of precision and reverence. Even though these caretakers have vanished, their presence lingers in the meticulous arrangement of machinery and the faint traces of energy that still pulse through the circuits and conduits. As we venture further, the corridors give way to larger spaces, hidden bunkers that suggest the pre-war civilizations of Ooo were not merely builders of machines, but architects of survival. These bunkers are reinforced with thick walls, their surfaces engraved with symbols that may have served both practical and ceremonial purposes. Some of these rooms contain beds and storage compartments, suggesting that people once lived here for extended periods, maintaining the machinery, observing its rhythms, and perhaps even sleeping alongside it to ensure its continuity. The air is cooler here, tinged with a metallic sharpness, and the hum of energy resonates through the floors and walls, giving a sense of presence, as though the building itself is aware of our exploration. In these bunkers, machinery grows more intricate. Devices coil and twist around one another, forming networks that resemble living systems rather than simple constructs of metal and wire. Valves hiss faintly with residual pressure, and small pulses of light trace along conduits, illuminating etched symbols that might represent instructions, maps, or warnings. It is as if the builders of this world anticipated centuries of silence, embedding redundancy and self-sufficiency into every system, ensuring that the machines could continue their work even in the absence of human hands. And in that foresight, there is both elegance and quiet wisdom, a recognition that power and knowledge are best preserved with patience and care. Some chambers hint at purposes that stretch beyond the purely mechanical. In one corner, a cylindrical device hums with low energy, surrounded by coils that seem almost organic, like veins carrying a life force. Perhaps this was an energy conduit designed to channel pre-war power, or perhaps it was something more esoteric, a device intended to interface with magical currents that crisscross Oo's crust. The hum here is slightly different, deeper, resonating through the stone and metal in a way that feels almost sentient, as if it senses the presence of the curious, acknowledging our steps with gentle pulses. Among the machinery, faint traces of magical influence can be felt. Runic symbols etched into panels, glyphs that shimmer faintly even in darkness, and coils that seem to respond to the hum of energy all suggest that these devices were not merely technological, but intertwined with forces beyond human comprehension. Perhaps these machines were designed to stabilize magical currents, or to store knowledge in a way that transcends time. The line between magic and machinery blurs here, creating a sense of quiet wonder and reverence for the ingenuity of the builders. In some chambers, we see evidence of experimentation, remnants of pre-war research left frozen in time. Small devices lie carefully arranged on tables, tools scattered in deliberate patterns, and charts etched onto metal surfaces hint at observations that may have spanned years. Some equipment seems intended to measure energy flow, others to amplify or direct it. There is a sense that the inhabitants of this world were deeply aware of forces that we only glimpse on the surface, forces that required careful attention, steady hands, and thoughtful planning. And even in their absence, the machinery hums with memory, continuing to fulfill its purpose quietly, patiently, across centuries. It is easy to imagine that some of these rooms were laboratories where science and magic intertwined in deliberate harmony. Perhaps experiments were conducted here to preserve knowledge, to harness energy, or to maintain balance in the world above. The hum of machinery, the glow of symbols, and the careful arrangement of devices all speak of diligence, reverence, and an understanding of consequences that stretched far beyond immediate needs. These were places of both creation and contemplation, where each piece of machinery was part of a larger network, and each network part of a greater whole. As we explore, the hum begins to shift subtly once more, carrying faint undertones that feel almost alive. It is here, among the twisting coils, intricate panels, and careful arrangements, that we begin to sense the possibility of sleeping powers intertwined with the machines themselves. Perhaps these devices were not merely inert tools, but conduits for forces that wait patiently beneath the surface, dormant yet aware, their energy ready to awaken should the need ever arise. The walls and floors vibrate faintly in response, a gentle pulse that reminds us we are not merely observing history, we are walking alongside it, immersed in the quiet rhythm of a world both mechanical and magical, both past and timeless. And so we linger, letting our imagination wander among the coils, levers, and glowing panels, feeling the presence of a civilization that planned for centuries, that wove magic and technology into seamless harmony, and that left behind a subterranean realm alive with quiet energy, memory, and vigilance. In these hidden bunkers, the machinery of the old world is not just remembered. It continues to dream, to hum, and to watch, preserving the patient heartbeat of a forgotten era beneath the lands of Ooo. As we move deeper into the hidden bunkers, the corridors begin to open into vast chambers where the machinery grows more complex, more deliberate, and almost impossibly large. Towers of metal rise from the floors, stretching toward ceilings lost in shadow, their surfaces etched with symbols that seem to pulse faintly in response to the ever-present hum. Pipes and conduits twist and coil like the veins of some enormous, sleeping organism, connecting rooms, floors, and entire networks with a precision that is breathtaking in its scope. Even in dormancy, these machines radiate intention, a quiet, steady energy that fills the air with a sense of wonder and reverence. Some of the devices appear to serve multiple purposes at once. Large engines pulse gently with energy, their movements slow and deliberate, while nearby consoles display faint, shimmering runes that might record measurements, calculations, or perhaps even magical incantations. One might imagine that these machines were designed not merely to channel power, but to understand it, to balance it, to preserve it across time. The hum resonates in rhythm with the faintest pulses of energy, and as we pause to listen, it almost feels like the machines are breathing, alive in a way that transcends our surface understanding. In corners of the chamber, smaller devices cluster around larger cores. Some appear to be regulators, measuring and distributing energy. Others resemble amplifiers designed to guide the flow of power along predetermined paths. Each component is carefully arranged, and every connection seems intentional, as though the entire network was constructed with both precision and care, not only to function, but to endure. Even in decay, even in the slow accumulation of dust and corrosion, there is purpose. The machines continue their quiet work, their hums blending into a symphony that is both mechanical and organic, both deliberate and unconscious. We notice subtle signs that the builders of these networks may have anticipated the long passage of time. Panels are accessible, but unobtrusive. Conduits are reinforced yet flexible, and many devices seem capable of sustaining themselves without constant human oversight. It is as if the civilization that created them understood the fragility of life above ground and designed these machines to persist, patient and observant, beneath the surface. And indeed, there is a sense of patience here that is palpable, a quiet endurance that speaks not of mere utility, but of mindfulness, foresight, and respect for the energies these machines channel. Among the machinery, faint glimmers of light flicker across etched symbols, casting shadows that dance across walls, floors, and coils. Some markings resemble mathematical diagrams, while others appear more abstract, almost ceremonial. It is tempting to imagine that these symbols serve multiple purposes, recording practical instructions, while also honoring the subtle magic and energy that infuse the machines. In this interplay of utility and reverence, we see evidence of a civilization that understood that technology need not be divorced from beauty, that function and mindfulness can coexist, and that even in silence, machines can tell stories. As we wander through the labyrinthine chambers, the hum begins to carry another quality, subtle yet undeniable. There is a faint undertone, an almost imperceptible vibration, as if the machines themselves are aware of forces beyond the physical energy, magic, even consciousness. Some theorists suggest that pre-war machinery was not entirely mechanical, that it incorporated elements of observation, memory, and perhaps even sentience. Here in these hidden bunkers, it is easy to imagine this is true. The devices are not merely inert tools. They are dreamers in their own right, preserving knowledge, maintaining balance, and quietly watching the world above as it evolves. Along one side of the chamber, we encounter an array of consoles that appear particularly sophisticated. Screens etched with glowing runes pulse faintly, some displaying symbols that shift almost imperceptibly over time. Levers and dials are aligned in precise configurations, and the air around them vibrates with residual energy. It is tempting to imagine that these consoles were once the heart of the network, the nodes where caretakers observed and guided the machinery, balancing power flows, monitoring magical currents, and ensuring that every device fulfilled its purpose. Even now, centuries later, these consoles remain as silent witnesses to ingenuity, precision, and foresight. Here we begin to see hints of integration between technology and life. Some machinery coils resemble the forms of organic creatures, with pipes like veins and engines that pulse as if alive. Residual energy flows in patterns that feel almost like thought, almost like quiet intention. It is as if the machines themselves are attuned not only to one another, but to the very pulse of the earth, the latent energies of Ooo, and perhaps even to the distant echoes of surface life. This blending of the mechanical and the magical creates a gentle, hypnotic rhythm, a quiet song of continuity and observation that lulls the mind and opens the imagination. In these chambers, one cannot help but feel reverence for the civilizations that built them. The care, foresight, and patience embedded in the machines speak of beings who understood the fragility of life, the enduring nature of energy, and the value of preservation. Every coil, gear, and etched rune is a testament to this understanding, a message to those patient enough to wander through the hidden halls and listen to the hum. And as we pause in the center of the chamber, surrounded by towering devices and softly glowing symbols, we begin to sense something larger. The machinery is not only functional, not only protective, but quietly aware, preserving the memory and energy of an age long past. Even in the stillness, there are small, subtle movements, a flicker of light along a panel, a gentle vibration through the floor, a soft pulse along the conduits. It is a reminder that this world is not inert. It is alive in its own way, breathing, dreaming, and observing. The machinery of the old world continues its patient vigil, quietly maintaining the balance of forces, holding fragments of magic, energy, and knowledge in careful harmony. And so, as we leave this chamber, we carry with us the understanding that the old world beneath Ooo is not merely a forgotten relic. It is a living memory, a network of thought, energy, and intention that spans centuries. It waits patiently, humming softly in the dark, preserving the secrets, the ingenuity, and the quiet power of a civilization that foresaw the passage of time. The machinery sleeps, yet it dreams, and in its dreams, it continues to watch over Ooo, silently guiding, protecting, and enduring. Before we drift into tonight's tale of the Secrets Beneath Ooo, I'd love to know where in the world you are watching from tonight and what time it is for you right now. Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical, seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. As we leave the humming heart of the old machinery behind, we venture into areas less explored, corridors that have remained untouched for countless years. The air grows cooler here, heavier with the scent of stone and quiet decay, and the hum of machinery fades into a softer undertone, almost like a lullaby drifting across vast, empty spaces. These are the forgotten bunkers of Ooo, spaces that were once vital, yet now exist primarily in silence, carrying the memory of a world long buried beneath the surface. The first hall we enter is enormous, stretching far beyond what the eye can comfortably trace. Shadows gather along the walls, softening the edges of consoles, pipes, and stairways that have been left in mid-use. Dust drifts like tiny clouds in slanted shafts of light, and the faint hum of distant machinery resonates through the floors and walls, creating a sense of presence, as though the very stone remembers those who once walked these corridors. Every step echoes gently, a reminder that we are traversing spaces designed for both function and endurance. The walls themselves are reinforced, etched with lines of symbols and diagrams that hint at purpose, caution, or perhaps record-keeping. Some are geometric, precise, almost mathematical, suggesting measurements and engineering. Others are flowing and organic, curving like vines, suggesting that there may have been a ceremonial or magical component to these bunkers as well. It is in these small details that one begins to feel the careful thought of the builders, their awareness that the corridors would endure long after they had departed, and that their intent might be interpreted, or at least felt, by those patient enough to explore. As we move deeper, the echoing halls begin to reveal the scale of this subterranean network. We encounter rooms that are almost cathedrals in their size, vast spaces lined with machinery that hums faintly, its purpose lost to time. Massive wheels, coiled conduits, and towers of metal rise from the floors, each device precise in its construction, yet strange in its design. It is easy to imagine that these rooms were once the nerve centers of a civilization, spaces where engineers, scholars, and caretakers worked together to observe, control, and maintain forces that now only whisper their presence. Some of these halls contain remnants of daily life, subtle traces of habitation and care. Small bunk beds are tucked into alcoves, consoles show faint scratches from repeated use, and faint residues of chalk or paint-marked charts and notes on walls. It is a quiet reminder that these corridors were more than mere machinery. They were spaces where life persisted, where humans, and perhaps other beings, moved carefully, living among technology, tending its needs, and perhaps even sleeping alongside it to ensure continuity. Occasionally, we pass rooms where the machines themselves seem almost alive. Coils pulse faintly, gears shift in imperceptible rhythms, and low vibrating sounds move through the stone and metal as if breathing. Some theorists suggest that these devices were designed to preserve energy, information, or magic, holding it in patient dormancy until a moment of need. It is easy to imagine that the bunkers were both practical and sacred, spaces where the human and mechanical intertwined, guided by an understanding of forces far larger than the surface world could perceive. We notice that many of the corridors converge at junctions that are larger and more elaborate, as though designed to direct both energy and movement through the network. The ceilings here are lost in shadow, and the floors are lined with grids of metal and stone, suggesting careful planning to maintain balance and stability. Pipes and conduits snake through the junctions, connecting one hall to another in patterns that hint at a greater design, a network that extends far beyond what the eye can see. The hum of machinery resonates more strongly here, layering with soft echoes from the stone, creating a gentle, hypnotic rhythm that slows the mind and encourages careful observation. In some chambers, we find clusters of machinery that seem particularly enigmatic. Cylindrical devices pulse faintly with energy, screens etched with symbols shimmer dimly, and coils of metal wind around in patterns that resemble organic growth. These may have been experiments or devices intended to channel and store energy in ways that blur the line between technology and magic. The hum here carries a subtle intelligence, a quiet awareness that suggests these machines were not merely functional, but attuned to the flow of forces around them, preserving balance in ways that are both delicate and deliberate. Small details invite speculation. Drawers left slightly ajar reveal coils of wire carefully wound, panels etched with symbols that may have been codes or warnings, and screens that flicker faintly, hinting at circuits that continue their work, despite centuries of silence. Each artifact, no matter how small, contributes to the impression that the pre-war builders were patient, meticulous, and deeply aware of the consequences of their work. Their intention echoes through the echoing halls, a quiet message preserved in stone, metal, and energy. The echoing nature of these halls emphasizes scale and depth. Sounds travel slowly, carrying faint vibrations from distant corridors, blending with the hum and creating a layered soundscape. Each footstep feels deliberate, and the mind slows, absorbing the weight of history embedded in every surface. Light from cracks above casts soft, moving patterns on the floors and walls, dancing across machinery and symbols, guiding the eye gently through spaces that have remained largely undisturbed for centuries. It is here, in these forgotten bunkers, that one begins to sense the broader narrative of the hidden world beneath Ooo. The hum of machinery, the quiet pulses of energy, and the careful arrangement of devices all hint at a civilization that valued both preservation and foresight. Each corridor, chamber, and junction tells a story of patience, of observation, and of an understanding that the forces they managed were not merely mechanical, but intertwined with the magic and life of the world above. The deeper we walk, the more it becomes apparent that these halls are not simply storage spaces for forgotten machines. They are living memories, quiet testimonies to the thought, skill, and reverence of their creators. They are spaces where energy, magic, and intention intersect, patiently awaiting discovery, gently guiding those who move slowly enough to notice, to feel, and to imagine. As we continue to move through the echoing halls, the corridors begin to reveal rooms that are smaller and more intimate, spaces that might once have served as workshops or observation chambers. Here, machinery is more delicate, composed of slender coils, precise instruments, and consoles etched with symbols that seem to shift subtly when glimpsed from different angles. Some panels show intricate diagrams, perhaps recording the flow of energy, the calibration of mechanisms, or the alignment of magical currents. Others are purely enigmatic, their purpose lost to time, yet still resonating faintly with the same hum that threads through every chamber. In these workshops, the traces of human or perhaps other sentient presence are more apparent. Small tools lie neatly arranged on tables, drawers contain carefully coiled wires, and faint scratches on metal surfaces suggest repeated measurements and adjustments. The arrangement is deliberate, almost reverent, as if those who worked here understood that the machinery was more than just instruments of function. It was a means of preserving balance, of sustaining the invisible rhythms that flowed beneath Ooo. In the quiet of these spaces, it is easy to imagine the caretakers pausing to listen to the gentle hum, adjusting their work with patience and care, aware that every decision would ripple through the network above and below. The tunnels occasionally open into chambers that feel almost ceremonial, spaces where machinery and magic intersected with intention and mindfulness. Cylindrical devices coil gracefully toward the ceiling, their surfaces etched with glowing symbols that pulse faintly, as though breathing in rhythm with the hum. Screens and consoles embedded into the walls shimmer softly, displaying glyphs that may have recorded energy patterns, magical flows, or even the thoughts of those who built them. These rooms suggest that the creators of Oo's pre-war technology understood the sacred nature of energy and that function and reverence could coexist in perfect harmony. Some chambers appear designed to observe or channel forces beyond the purely mechanical. Conduits snake along walls and ceilings in complex patterns, forming loops and spirals that suggest energy circulation, storage, or amplification. Residual pulses of light travel through these networks, tracing paths that are both intricate and intentional. One might imagine these conduits serving as quiet guardians, maintaining balance in ways too subtle for surface eyes to perceive. The hum resonates more clearly here, carrying a rhythm that seems to echo through stone and metal alike, an invitation to listen, to slow the mind, and to feel the hidden heartbeat of the subterranean world. Alongside the machinery, faint signs of habitation emerge. Alcoves contain beds, chairs, and storage units, all arranged with care. Dust has settled over centuries, yet the arrangement speaks of deliberation, as if the inhabitants once moved deliberately through these spaces, attuned to both machinery and magic. Charts etched on walls, small markings along consoles, and scratches in stone floors hint at lives lived in quiet service to the network, a patient and reverent stewardship that has left traces we can still perceive. Even in absence, the energy of those caretakers lingers, harmonizing with the hum of dormant machines and the subtle currents of magical force. In certain halls, we encounter machinery that seems almost sentient. Coils pulse gently, gears shift in imperceptible rhythms, and valves hiss softly with residual pressure. Some devices appear to record or store information, while others may have been designed to channel or regulate magical energy. It is tempting to think of these mechanisms as dreaming, holding fragments of knowledge, intention, and observation in a quiet dormancy that has endured for centuries. The gentle vibrations through the floors and walls suggest that, even without active human guidance, these machines continue to maintain balance, quietly observing the flow of energy beneath Ooo. The deeper we move, the more the echoing halls reveal the scale of this hidden network. Massive chambers branch into narrow corridors, each path leading to rooms filled with machinery of varying size and complexity. Some devices appear to have been abandoned mid-use, panels left open, levers set in precise positions, as though their operators expected to return. Others are more intact, coils still faintly pulsing, screens shimmering softly, suggesting that certain sections of this network remain active, their energy preserved through centuries of quiet dormancy. It is here, amid the machinery and sleeping devices, that the sense of timelessness becomes palpable. Each hall, each room, each coil and conduit seems to carry memory, intention, and quiet vigilance. The hum resonates in harmony with the faint echoes of footsteps, the soft shift of dust, and the gentle sway of light, creating a calm, hypnotic rhythm that slows the mind and encourages reflection. One begins to sense that these forgotten bunkers are not merely relics of a pre-war civilization, but living memories, quietly preserving knowledge, energy, and magic beneath the lands of Ooo. And as we pause in one particularly expansive hall, The hum of machinery swells ever so slightly, carrying with it a subtle awareness that the tunnels themselves are more than passageways. They are corridors of memory, of observation, and of patient endurance, channels through which energy and intention flow in ways that surface life can barely perceive. Here in these echoing halls, one feels connected not only to the machines, but to the long-vanished caretakers who tended them, and to the enduring forces that persist quietly beneath Ooo, waiting patiently for those willing to move slowly enough to listen. As we venture further, the echoing halls begin to reveal chambers that are more mysterious, spaces that hint at purposes we can only imagine. Massive doors, reinforced with metal and etched with complex symbols, stand silently, guarding rooms that may have once contained pre-war experiments or machinery of unparalleled sophistication. The air grows heavier here, tinged with a faint metallic sharpness, and the hum of machinery becomes more nuanced, layered with subtle vibrations that seem to respond to our presence. It is a gentle reminder that beneath Ooo, energy persists in ways both visible and hidden, flowing patiently through corridors that have not felt footsteps in centuries. Within these deeper bunkers, some chambers appear almost sacred, designed not only for function, but for observation, contemplation, or perhaps even meditation. Coils and conduits rise toward shadowed ceilings, forming spirals and loops that suggest careful attention to the flow of energy. Screens and panels shimmer faintly with symbols that seem to shift imperceptibly, like the slow pulse of a dream. It is easy to imagine that these devices were not simply tools, but companions in understanding, capable of recording, interpreting, and even gently influencing the energies that course through the underground network. In corners of certain rooms, delicate instruments lie arranged with deliberate precision, suggesting meticulous experimentation. Small vials, coiled wires, and etchings on metallic surfaces hint at research that was both technical and magical. Some devices appear to measure currents of energy, while others seem designed to amplify or stabilize them. The faint hum resonates more clearly here, vibrating through floors and walls, reminding us that these machines, though dormant, are not inert. They continue their work silently, preserving balance and holding memory, their presence almost meditative, as if the pre-war civilization understood that the forces they controlled required patience and respect. As we explore, we begin to notice subtle signs of intentional dormancy. Some machinery appears to have been set to sleep. Valves left in precise positions, levers locked in place, and energy conduits stabilized in carefully measured patterns. Perhaps the creators understood that time would pass, civilizations would fall, and yet the forces they had harnessed must remain. The hum of energy, though faint, continues to echo through these chambers, a gentle heartbeat beneath the surface, connecting rooms, halls, and corridors in a silent network of observation and preservation. The echoing halls themselves seem to hold memory. Sounds travel slowly here, carrying faint vibrations from distant chambers, blending with the hum of machinery and the subtle shifts of residual energy. A single footstep can echo across stone floors for what feels like moments, reminding us of the vastness and patience inherent in this subterranean world. Light filtering from cracks in walls or ceilings creates shifting patterns that dance across machinery, panels, and symbols, guiding the eye slowly, almost hypnotically, through spaces that feel alive with quiet intention. Among these hidden chambers, some devices appear almost organic, coils curving like tendrils, pistons pulsing in rhythmic, imperceptible motions, and conduits winding through walls and ceilings in intricate patterns. It is tempting to think of them as dreaming, holding knowledge, energy, or magic in a patient dormancy. aware of the larger network to which they belong. The hum seems to deepen here, carrying subtle layers of resonance that feel almost conscious, as though the machinery itself is aware of the flows it maintains, observing quietly, gently, and without urgency. We begin to encounter spaces that were likely observation hubs, rooms where caretakers might have studied energy flows, machinery behavior, or even magical currents. Consoles with etched symbols, charts scrawled faintly onto panels, and devices connected in precise networks suggest careful monitoring. These rooms are silent now, yet one can almost feel the presence of those long gone, their hands, eyes, and minds intertwined with the machinery, shaping its function and preserving its energy for centuries to come. Even without active human oversight, the rooms exude calm purpose, as if the careful arrangement of devices continues to maintain balance automatically. In the quietest corners, the hum carries hints of power deeper than the surface can perceive. Some chambers contain coils and engines that pulse faintly with residual energy, low vibrations that seem to reach into the subconscious. Perhaps these were sources of stored magic, preserved for future generations, or mechanisms designed to stabilize the pre-war world's energy long after the surface civilizations had faded. The faint glow along conduits and panels seems almost alive, threading the chambers together, reminding us that these halls are more than stone and metal. They are living memory, patient, aware, and enduring. Walking through these echoing halls, one feels a profound sense of continuity. The machinery, the architecture, and even the lingering presence of caretakers create a rhythm, a quiet song that threads through the bunkers, connecting past, present, and perhaps even future. Each room, each device, each pulse of hum carries intention, care, and awareness, as if the entire subterranean network has been designed to watch over itself and the world above, patiently, silently, and unfailingly. And so as we pause in the center of a particularly vast chamber, it becomes clear that these forgotten bunkers are more than relics or abandoned laboratories. They are the living memory of a pre-war civilization, an intricate network of energy, magic, and intention, preserved in stone, metal, and quiet hums. They remind us that beneath Ooo, the past sleeps not in silence but in careful vigilance, that machines can dream, energy can endure, and halls can echo with memory long after the surface has forgotten. In these echoing spaces, the hum is a lullaby, gentle and steady, guiding the imagination, slowing the mind, and allowing the quiet wonder of Oo's hidden history to settle softly into the heart. It is a whisper from the past, a patient invitation to explore, to imagine, and to drift gently alongside the sleeping legacy of a world beneath our feet. As we wander further into the labyrinth, some halls begin to widen into chambers that feel less utilitarian and more intentional in design, spaces where energy, magic, and architecture seem to converge in harmony. The floors are patterned with concentric circles and radial lines etched deeply into stone, faintly glowing as the hum of machinery vibrates through the air. These markings are subtle, almost hypnotic, and they guide the flow of energy through the rooms like a silent current beneath the surface. In some areas, coils of metal and tubing form spirals that seem to pulse with awareness, responding faintly to the vibrations of those who move carefully through the halls. We notice more signs of habitation, though long abandoned. Small alcoves contain bunk-like beds, neatly stacked tools, and storage containers that once held supplies for caretakers. Charts and notes are etched on metal panels, many faded but still legible to the careful observer. Some appear to track energy flows, while others record experimental outcomes, as if the inhabitants had been balancing their lives around the rhythms of the machinery itself. Even in decay, the arrangement feels intentional, almost meditative, as if the caretakers had understood that the hallways and chambers were alive in their own way, requiring patience, respect, and observation. In certain chambers, the machinery becomes particularly enigmatic. Towers of coiled metal rise from the floors, loops of energy conduits spiral toward the ceilings, and cylindrical devices hum softly, pulsing as though holding their breath. It is tempting to imagine these as repositories of power, channels for magic, or even sleeping sentient constructs designed to preserve knowledge. The hum in these rooms is richer, layered with subtle rhythms that seem almost conscious, as if the machines are aware of the presence of observers, yet do not seek interaction, only patient coexistence. Some rooms appear designed to observe or interact with forces beyond the strictly physical. Faintly glowing panels display symbols that shift imperceptibly over time, while small instruments trace invisible flows of energy, magical currents, or pre-war power. It is possible that these devices were intended to stabilize the very earth beneath Ooo, to guide the distribution of energy, or to preserve fragments of knowledge in a state of dormancy. Walking through these halls, one cannot help but feel that the machinery is not merely inert, but alive in purpose, maintaining balance quietly, without attention, across centuries. Among the corridors, we find junctions that are particularly striking. Here, multiple halls converge, lined with conduits, panels, and devices that extend outward like the branches of a tree, carrying energy, information, and perhaps even intention in all directions. Massive engines rest along walls, coils pulse gently, and the hum reverberates in layers, blending mechanical and magical resonance into a steady, hypnotic rhythm. The design suggests careful foresight. Redundancy, self-sufficiency, and patience are built into every connection, ensuring that even if one path fails, the network continues, quietly preserving its function and memory. In some hidden corners, the machinery seems almost organic. Coils and conduits curve like sinews and veins, pulsing slowly, while gears shift imperceptibly in complex sequences. Some theorists suggest that pre-war technology was intertwined with magical consciousness, a fusion designed to observe, store, and guide energy in ways that are subtle and patient. Here, in these echoing halls, it is easy to imagine that theory is true. The devices appear to sleep, but in that dormancy lies awareness, a quiet attentiveness that extends across centuries, bridging the forgotten past and the unknown future. Small details invite reflection. Drawers left slightly open reveal coiled wires, meticulously organized. Panels bear etchings that may be codes, names, or warnings. Faintly glowing symbols shimmer along consoles, as if recording energy patterns even now. These elements, while modest, speak to a civilization that valued foresight, patience, and meticulous care. Every component of the bunkers, from the largest engine to the smallest coil, carries a story of deliberate intention, waiting for those who move slowly enough to perceive it. The echoing nature of these halls amplifies the sense of timelessness. Footsteps carry for moments, mingling with the soft vibrations of residual energy, the gentle pulse of the hum, and the subtle shifts of dust and light. This layering creates a calm, hypnotic environment, slowing the mind and inviting contemplation. One can sense the rhythm of the old world, the slow, deliberate flow of energy and intention that persists long after the surface has changed, long after the caretakers have vanished. As we pause in a particularly expansive chamber, it becomes clear that these forgotten bunkers are more than dormant machinery and abandoned hallways. They are living memory, holding within them the quiet vigilance of a civilization that understood the delicate balance of energy, magic, and life. The hum resonates like a lullaby, gentle and steady, threading through stone and metal, connecting rooms, corridors, and chambers in an invisible network of observation and preservation. Even in stillness there is motion. Light flickers along etched symbols, coils pulse faintly, and conduits vibrate with quiet energy, as if the underground network itself breathes. This is a place of patient endurance, of sleeping forces preserved for centuries, waiting silently, gently, and without urgency. In these echoing halls we glimpse the foresight of a civilization that understood that knowledge, magic, and energy are best maintained with patience, care, and reverence. And so, as we step back, taking in the vastness and quiet of the underground world, it is clear that the forgotten bunkers are not just remnants of the pre-war era. They are active witnesses, silent guardians, and patient dreamers, preserving the heartbeat of Oo's hidden past. The halls echo not just with sound, but with memory, intention, and enduring vigilance, a reminder that beneath the surface, history sleeps with purpose, quietly guiding the energies that shape the world above. As we leave the echoing halls and forgotten bunkers behind, a new sense of presence begins to settle around us. The air grows thicker, heavy with the weight of something ancient, something vast that has lain beneath Ooo since the earliest days. It is here that we begin to sense the slumbering gods, the hidden entities whose energy has quietly flowed through the machinery, the bunkers, and even the stone itself long before any surface civilization took note. Their presence is subtle, a deep resonance that threads through the corridors, a gentle vibration that is felt more than heard, reminding us that the land itself carries memory, power, and patience. The first hint of their presence comes in chambers larger than any we have yet encountered. Here the ceilings are lost in shadow, and the floors extend farther than the eye can trace. Massive devices and conduits are arranged with careful symmetry, suggesting not mere human design, but guidance by something far older, something with intent beyond the understanding of engineers or scholars. The hum we have followed beneath Ooo deepens here, layering into subtle rhythms that almost feel like breathing, a slow, measured pulse that invites the imagination to wander toward thoughts of consciousness on a scale we can scarcely comprehend. Some theorists suggest that these chambers were intended as resting places for the gods themselves, or at least for manifestations of their energy. There are circular platforms, pillars etched with geometric and organic symbols, and conduits that spiral upward into darkness, all designed to channel and preserve energy. It is a quiet system, one that requires no interaction to function. Yet it hums with the faint awareness of forces that have endured through centuries. Each coil, each conduit, each etched panel may serve as a guardian, a stabilizer, or a vessel for power too vast for ordinary beings to wield. As we move closer to the center of these chambers, the scale of what we are witnessing becomes more apparent. There are enormous crystalline structures embedded into the floors and walls, softly glowing with residual energy. Their facets catch and bend the dim light, scattering gentle reflections across nearby machinery. Some appear to pulse faintly, as if inhaling and exhaling in rhythm with the hum. These are not merely decorative or functional. They feel alive, repositories of memory and force, perhaps linked directly to the slumbering gods themselves. Evidence suggests that these gods may have once walked the surface, guiding life and energy, only to retreat into dormancy as the world above evolved. The bunkers and machinery we have explored may have been constructed to maintain the balance they left behind, to preserve fragments of their presence in patterns of energy, magic, and observation. The air in these chambers is heavy with patience, a quiet knowing that life continues above, but that beneath, the forces that shape the land rest, observing in subtle, unfathomable ways. In some sections, faint carvings and glyphs hint at identities, stories, or roles of these sleeping entities. Though many symbols are worn by time, others shimmer faintly, suggesting a form of memory encoded in both metal and stone. These markings intertwine with the machinery, creating an intricate network of conduits, channels, and symbols, each part reinforcing the other. Here the line between divine presence and mechanical observation blurs. The machinery may not only preserve energy, but may act as an extension of the gods themselves, a bridge between dormancy and action. Among these chambers, some devices and structures are colossal, far larger than human scale, as if designed to interact with entities whose presence is immense. Massive conduits coil around platforms, pulsing with faint light and energy. Some rooms feature central nodes that seem almost sacred, spaces where residual magic concentrates in soft waves, echoing through the stone in vibrations that slow the heartbeat and invite reflection. Standing here, it becomes clear that the builders of these chambers were not attempting mere preservation. They were engaging in quiet stewardship, tending the slumbering powers with patience, reverence, and understanding beyond ordinary comprehension. Even the air itself feels alive in these spaces. Each breath carries a faint vibration, a whisper of energy that traces patterns across the skin and through the mind. It is a sensation both calming and profound, as though the presence of these dormant gods has permeated every stone, every panel, every coil, and conduit. The hum we have followed so far seems to expand here, layered with low undertones that feel ancient, rhythmic, and deeply aware. In these quiet moments, one senses that this is not merely machinery maintaining energy, but a network intertwined with consciousness, capable of subtle awareness and gentle influence. And yet, despite their immense scale and power, the gods here are patient and still. Their slumber is not restless. It is deliberate, harmonious with the machinery, the bunkers, and the flow of energy beneath Ooo. The hum carries a soft, hypnotic cadence, a lullaby of immense scale that seems to guide not only the machinery but also the mind of anyone wandering these halls. It is as if the gods themselves are whispering not in words but in presence, allowing observers to feel the rhythm of their patience and the weight of their enduring watchfulness. As we linger in the presence of these slumbering gods, subtle signs of their influence begin to reveal themselves. The machinery we once thought purely mechanical now seems almost responsive, as though sensing the flow of energy and life in these halls. Coils pulse faintly in rhythm with distant vibration, valves shift imperceptibly, and conduits carry soft currents of light that trace intricate paths across the floors and walls. It is as if the underground network itself has become an extension of these sleeping entities, a living, breathing framework that channels their quiet power across the land above. In one expansive chamber, a series of massive, crystalline nodes rise from the floor, each emitting a gentle, oscillating glow. Light refracts across the surfaces, creating patterns that ripple slowly along the walls and ceilings. The hum in this room carries subtle variations, delicate modulations that suggest awareness, as if the god's consciousness resonates not only through stone and metal, but through the very energy these crystals contain. Standing here, it is impossible not to feel a sense of awe, not fear, but a deep, reflective wonder at the patience and quiet magnitude of these forces. Some of the machinery appears to serve as a bridge between the divine and the material, conduits that guide the residual energy of the gods into more tangible forms. Panels etched with ancient symbols glow faintly, perhaps recording or stabilizing flows of magical power. Others seem almost ceremonial, their design intricate and precise, as though the builders understood that the machinery itself was part of a sacred rhythm. Even the smallest devices hum with subtle purpose, reinforcing the notion that no aspect of these bunkers was left to chance, and that every coil, every console, every etched panel plays a role in maintaining balance while the gods sleep. In a quieter corridor, smaller chambers hold instruments that once may have monitored the movements or pulses of these entities. Cylindrical devices hum softly. Small levers remain frozen mid-adjustment, and charts etched into metal surfaces suggest careful observation over time. Though the caretakers have long vanished, their work endures, embedded in the machinery that bridges the human and the divine. It is easy to imagine them moving quietly through these halls, listening to these subtle vibrations, adjusting flows of energy, and ensuring that the slumber of these immense powers remained undisturbed, yet harmoniously integrated with the world above. The air in these halls carries a subtle vibration that seems almost sentient. Each step, each breath, resonates faintly in the stone, creating an interaction between observer and environment. In this interaction, there is a calming rhythm, a slow meditation that mirrors the patience of the sleeping gods. The hum of energy, the pulse of the conduits, and the soft, refracted light from crystalline nodes coalesce into a sensory lullaby, slowing the mind, easing the heartbeat, and inviting reflection. Here, beneath the surface of Ooo, time seems to stretch, bending gently around the quiet majesty of forces that have existed far longer than any human memory. Occasionally, we encountered chambers that seemed designed for interaction rather than mere observation. Massive platforms, spiraling conduits, and central nodes suggest places where energy might have been drawn, studied, or channeled. Some devices appear almost organic, coils curving gracefully, valves pulsing softly, and conduits winding in patterns that echo natural forms. These spaces hint at a profound understanding by the pre-war civilization that energy and magic, machinery and consciousness could coexist in delicate harmony, and that the sleeping god's presence could be preserved, monitored, and respected across centuries. In other areas, the signs of dormancy are deliberate and precise. Levers remain fixed, energy channels remain stable, and panels display softly glowing symbols that appear almost alive. The subtle vibrations through the floor, the hum of machines, and the gentle play of light across the surfaces suggest that these chambers are not idle. They continue to uphold balance, quietly maintaining the flow of energy in the absence of active intervention. It is a humbling reminder that, even in stillness, great forces endure, quietly shaping the hidden world beneath Ooo. And as we pause at the center of one particularly vast chamber, the subtle interplay of light, sound, and energy becomes almost mesmerizing. The hum swells gently, layering with faint echoes, creating a rhythm that feels alive and deliberate. It is in this stillness, in this slow, meditative pulse, that the presence of the slumbering gods is most tangible. Their power is vast, patient, and serene, intertwined with the machinery, the bunkers, and the very stone itself, reminding us that beneath the surface, history sleeps not in silence, but in quiet, vigilant watchfulness. As we move deeper into the chambers where the gods slumber, subtle signs of interaction between their presence and the pre-war machinery become increasingly apparent. Some conduits carry faint pulses of light that ripple in gentle waves, tracing paths across the floors and walls, as if communicating with other devices. Coils and cylindrical structures pulse in quiet synchrony, suggesting an awareness that extends beyond the physical, a delicate attentiveness that has persisted for centuries. The hum is no longer simply a sound. It feels alive, carrying layers of vibration that resonate through body and mind, inviting quiet reflection and an almost meditative awareness. We notice that many of the larger devices seem designed to focus or amplify divine energy. Crystalline nodes embedded in floors, walls, and pedestals glow faintly, each pulse suggesting a heartbeat of the gods, a whisper of consciousness preserved in form. Conduits snake toward these nodes in intricate spirals, carrying subtle currents that may stabilize, measure, or simply honor the immense forces contained within. The symmetry and care in their construction are remarkable, hinting at a civilization that understood not only the magnitude of the power they were interacting with, but also the patience required to preserve it. Every element feels deliberate, as if the halls themselves were composed of thought, intention, and reverence. In certain chambers, the machinery seems almost organic. Pipes and conduits coil like tendrils. Gears shift imperceptibly, and pulsing valves suggest a rhythm that mirrors breathing. Panels etched with symbols glow faintly, their inscriptions not entirely decipherable, yet radiating meaning to those attuned to these subtle energy flows. It is easy to imagine that these devices were designed not only to sustain energy, but also to communicate, recording patterns, flows, and perhaps even fragments of consciousness. The halls hum with quiet intelligence, a network that has continued its work in stillness, patiently maintaining balance long after the original caretakers vanished. Some spaces appear ceremonial, designed to honor the slumbering entities rather than serve practical function. Platforms are positioned with precise symmetry, conduits rise in elegant spirals, and symbols shimmer softly across walls and machinery. Here, energy seems to linger longer, pulse more deliberately, and resonate more deeply with the natural vibrations of the earth. The faint light refracted from crystalline nodes dances slowly across surfaces, illuminating details that may once have held sacred meaning. These chambers suggest a civilization that intertwined technology and reverence, understanding that great power demands not only observation, but respect. As we explore, traces of pre-war caretakers emerge in quiet, almost imperceptible ways. Small alcoves contain tools neatly organized. Notebooks etched onto metal panels reveal patterns of study, and instruments designed to measure, monitor, or guide energy are still aligned with meticulous care. It is as though the inhabitants understood that their task was not to command the gods, but to steward them, to maintain balance and flow without disturbing the patient, slumbering presence. Even centuries later, the traces of this work remain, a testament to foresight, diligence, and reverence. The deeper halls occasionally open into vast, cathedral-like chambers where energy seems concentrated. Here the hum grows in richness, layering with faint echoes that travel across the stone and metal in complex patterns. Crystalline nodes pulse gently, conduits spiral in synchronized rhythms, and panels shimmer with barely perceptible inscriptions. These spaces suggest a convergence of power, a nexus where energy, consciousness, and machinery merge in delicate equilibrium. Standing here, one can almost feel the heartbeat of Ooo itself, synchronized with the slumbering gods, whispering quietly through stone, metal, and energy. Some theorists speculate that these chambers may have been designed to preserve more than energy. They may have been intended to maintain the consciousness of the gods themselves, allowing fragments of awareness to persist in a dormant state. The faint oscillations in crystalline nodes, the pulsing conduits, and the hum of machinery all suggest a system capable of observation, memory, and subtle influence. The network beneath Ooo is not simply passive, It is an active, enduring testament to foresight, preserving forces that are vast, patient, and incomprehensible in their scale. Even in the quietest corners, the halls carry whispers of power. Small devices flicker faintly, conduits hum with gentle pulses, and light refracts softly across walls and floors. The subtle energy flows suggest that these slumbering gods, while inactive in form, continue to shape the hidden world around them. Their presence is patient and deliberate, a quiet watchfulness that spans centuries. It is a presence that does not rush, does not demand, but simply exists, guiding the flow of energy, balancing forces, and preserving the network that hums beneath Ooo. As we move from chamber to chamber, it becomes apparent that these spaces are not only resting places, but active frameworks of influence. The machinery and conduits appear to respond to shifts in energy, subtle vibrations, and perhaps even thought, suggesting a connection between the divine and the mechanical. In these moments, we begin to sense the remarkable patience and wisdom of both the pre-war civilization and the slumbering gods they tended. The hum, the pulsing light, and the gentle vibration of the halls combine into a sensory lullaby, slowing thoughts, softening awareness, and inviting contemplation of forces far greater than any one being. Here, in these vast chambers, the slumbering gods are not silent. They speak in whispers of energy, in rhythms of light, and in the slow, deliberate pulse of machinery. The halls themselves seem alive with awareness, and even the smallest movement, the faintest vibration, carries the echo of intention. One cannot help but feel that beneath Ooo, history does not rest quietly, but continues in patient observation, quietly preserving energy, consciousness, and balance for a world that may one day awaken to it. As we linger in the central halls of the slumbering gods, a profound sense of scale begins to settle around us. The chambers stretch farther than the eye can comfortably trace, the ceilings lost in shadow, and the walls lined with conduits, crystalline nodes, and machinery whose purpose is both practical and almost reverential. Every pulse of light, every vibration of hum, seems deliberate, as if the entire underground network exists to preserve and honor the quiet power that rests here. It is a humbling reminder that beneath the surface of Ooo, forces older than memory endure in patient, measured slumber. In some of the deepest chambers, enormous crystalline structures rise from the floor, spiraling toward the unseen ceilings. Their facets refract faint light, scattering gentle patterns across the stone and machinery. These structures pulse with subtle energy, and their rhythms are slow, deliberate, almost meditative. Some theorists suggest that they act as reservoirs for the consciousness of the gods themselves, storing fragments of awareness and maintaining stability in the subterranean network. The hum resonates more fully here, layered with faint overtones that feel almost like a heartbeat, a reminder that these gods are not gone, merely resting in a manner beyond human comprehension. Among the machinery and crystalline nodes, delicate conduits trace patterns across floors, walls, and ceilings. Some coil in elegant spirals, others stretch straight and precise, forming a lattice that seems almost alive. Through these conduits, energy flows gently, humming along paths that may have been laid centuries ago. The light that travels along them is soft, refracted, and pulsing in time with the vibrations beneath our feet. There is a sense of intention in every curve, every junction, every connection. A reminder that the pre-war caretakers were deeply aware of the scale, patience, and subtlety required to preserve forces far beyond their own lifetimes. Smaller chambers along the edges of these vast halls reveal instruments that suggest observation and guardianship. Panels etched with symbols faintly glow, measuring currents of energy, monitoring pulses, and recording subtle variations in the hum. Valves and levers remain fixed, coils pulse gently, and conduits shimmer with the flow of energy. Even in the absence of active caretakers, the network functions, maintaining balance and preserving memory. It is as if the machinery itself has become a caretaker, an extension of the gods, preserving their presence and influence across centuries. In some corners, we notice evidence of interaction. Spaces where energy was once drawn, monitored, or even redirected. Central platforms, massive conduits, and pulsing nodes suggest focal points for these interactions. Perhaps places where the gods themselves could be observed or connected to the network. The scale is immense, the design precise, and the purpose deliberately quiet. Nothing here seems rushed or intrusive. Every element contributes to a slow, patient harmony that allows the gods to remain undisturbed while their influence continues to ripple through the hidden world beneath Ooo. The hum throughout these chambers carries subtle variations, gentle modulations that seem almost intelligent. It responds faintly to movement, to vibration, and perhaps even to the presence of observers. The network beneath Ooo feels alive with quiet awareness, not in the way we understand life, but as a patient consciousness that observes, maintains, and preserves. Each pulse, each vibration, each flicker of light contributes to a rhythm that is calming, reflective, and deeply hypnotic. The experience slows thought, softens the mind, and encourages gentle contemplation of forces far older and vaster than we can fully grasp. Some theorists suggest that the machinery itself may be considered an extension of the gods, an active framework of preservation and guardianship. Crystalline nodes, conduits, and pulsing valves could serve as both vessels and amplifiers for divine presence, allowing fragments of consciousness to persist even in dormancy. Observing these chambers, it becomes clear that the pre-war civilization understood the delicacy of these forces. Their work was not merely mechanical. It was meditative, reverent, and precise, a patient stewardship designed to endure across centuries. The further we move through these halls, the more evident it becomes that these slumbering gods shape not only the underground network, but the world above. Subtle flows of energy trace pathways through stone, conduit, and crystal, reaching the surface in ways that are imperceptible yet persistent. These forces influence growth, balance, and the rhythm of life across Ooo. Even in slumber, the god's presence remains active, gently guiding, preserving, and sustaining the hidden fabric of the land. In the quietest moments, when the hum is the loudest voice we hear, the effect is almost meditative. Shadows shift slowly across walls, light refracts softly through the crystalline nodes, and faint pulses travel along conduits, creating a sensory symphony of vibration, rhythm, and illumination. Here beneath Ooo, time feels suspended. The slumbering gods are patient, aware, and enduring, their influence woven into every stone, coil, and crystal. The halls themselves seem to breathe with the rhythm of their presence, a quiet, eternal lullaby that slows the mind and invites gentle reflection. As we step back to absorb the scale of this hidden world, it becomes clear that the slumbering gods are neither absent nor dormant in the ordinary sense. They exist in patient watchfulness, their presence intertwined with the machinery, the bunkers, and the subterranean network. The hum, the light, and the gentle vibrations carry memory, intention, and quiet guidance, a reminder that beneath Ooo, history does not rest. It endures, waits, and gently shapes the world above. And so, as we leave these vast chambers and turn back toward the corridors we first entered, we carry with us the understanding that the slumbering gods of Ooo are ever present, their patience eternal, their power quiet yet immense. They rest not in silence, but in gentle vigilance, their influence a slow, hypnotic rhythm that threads through the hidden layers of the world. In their dormancy, they teach us patience, reverence, and the beauty of forces that endure, quietly shaping reality without disturbance, softly guiding those who take the time to listen. As we step further into the hidden corridors beneath Ooo, there is a sound that becomes almost tangible, more felt than heard, a low, persistent hum. It is subtle at first, a soft vibration that travels along the stone floors, brushing against walls and machinery, threading through the air in quiet resonance. Yet as we move deeper, it grows, layering itself in delicate harmonics that hint at something immense, ancient, and tireless. This is the hum that never dies, a constant reminder that beneath the surface, energy endures, memory persists, and forces we can barely perceive continue to exist in quiet vigilance. The hum seems to originate from nowhere and everywhere at once. It flows along conduits, coils, and crystalline nodes, but it is not limited to them. It resonates in the stone itself, vibrating in subtle waves that ripple across the floors and walls, filling the chambers with a soft, meditative presence. There is a gentle rhythm to it, a quiet heartbeat that slows thought and softens awareness, inviting the imagination to drift along the hidden currents beneath Ooo. Standing in one of the larger halls, it feels as though the entire network of bunkers, machinery, and conduits hums together as one, a symphony of patient endurance and careful preservation. Some of the older devices, once carefully tended by pre-war caretakers, still pulse faintly in synchrony with this hum. Coils glow with residual energy, valves and pistons shift imperceptibly, and conduits carry currents that seem both mechanical and magical. It is easy to imagine that the hum is not merely a side effect of dormant machinery, but a deliberate, sustained resonance that has continued through centuries, a thread connecting past, present, and perhaps even the future. The sound is calming, hypnotic, almost like a lullaby for the world itself, and it encourages a slow, reflective awareness as we explore the halls. In some chambers, the hum becomes more textured, layered with subtle vibrations that ripple through the crystalline nodes embedded in floors and walls. These structures, some larger than a house, refract faint light into soft patterns that dance across the surfaces, tracing paths that echo the energy flowing beneath. The nodes seem almost aware, responding to shifts in vibration, maintaining a gentle rhythm that harmonizes with the machinery and the conduits. It is as if the entire underground network has become a single living organism, breathing in quiet synchrony with the sleeping gods and the energy preserved within the bunkers. Occasionally, the hum interacts with the mind in ways that are difficult to describe. Some theorists suggest that it carries information, subtle pulses that influence thought and perception. Others believe it is a natural resonance of energy, magic, and machinery coexisting across centuries. Regardless of its origin, the effect is unmistakable. A deep, soothing calm settles over anyone who lingers long enough to feel its full presence. The rhythm is deliberate and slow, encouraging patience, reflection, and gentle contemplation, as though the hum itself is aware of the pace of those who wander these halls. Alongside the hum, we notice faint traces of pre-war markings etched into the walls, floors, and machinery. Symbols and diagrams, some faded by centuries, seem to correspond with the pathways of the hum, hinting that it was not accidental but carefully cultivated. Panels, conduits, and crystalline nodes appear to have been aligned and calibrated to preserve its resonance, to ensure that energy continued to flow even after caretakers and civilizations faded. The hum is both a voice and a presence, carrying the memory of a time when Ooo was carefully balanced through machinery, magic, and intention. Deeper into the chambers, the hum grows richer, layered with harmonics that seem to respond to movement, vibration, and even thought. Light from crystalline nodes shifts subtly in time with the pulses, casting patterns that stretch and curve along the stone. In these moments, the halls feel alive, not in a sense that is immediate or aggressive, but in a quiet, patient awareness that observes, maintains, and preserves. The pre-war civilization may have long vanished, yet their careful attention endures in the resonance, in the hum, in the slow, deliberate flow of energy through every corridor and conduit. In certain vast halls, the hum becomes almost tactile, brushing against the skin and threading through the body. Coils pulse softly in synchrony, valves shift gently, and crystalline nodes refract light in waves that are imperceptible at first, but accumulate into a delicate rhythm. Standing here, one can almost imagine the pre-war caretakers moving among these devices, listening, adjusting, and harmonizing the flow, ensuring that the hum would persist long after they themselves had gone. The sound is a lullaby that extends beyond sound alone, a patient, eternal rhythm that seems to bind time, energy, and consciousness together beneath the surface of Ooo. As we follow the hum deeper into the underground labyrinth, its presence becomes more layered, more textured. Each chamber adds a subtle new frequency, a faint overtone that weaves itself into the larger resonance. In some halls, it vibrates gently along the floors, brushing against walls and machinery in a way that feels almost tactile, as if the very stone beneath our feet has memory and intention. The light from crystalline nodes refracts softly, dancing along etched symbols and conduits, amplifying the sensation that every part of this network is alive, patient, and carefully attentive. It is easy to imagine that the pre-war civilization understood the significance of this resonance. The hum was not just energy, it was a connection, a bridge between machinery, magic, and the consciousness of the slumbering gods. Panels etched with symbols, conduits spiraling in intricate patterns, and crystalline nodes pulsing faintly all suggest deliberate cultivation. Every device seems to have been placed with purpose, each conduit aligned to preserve balance, to channel energy in ways that endure across centuries, and to maintain harmony with the quiet yet immense presence of the gods above and below. In some chambers, the hum becomes almost rhythmic, layered with subtle pulses that create a hypnotic cadence. The crystalline nodes embedded in floors and walls pulse in synchrony, casting gentle patterns of light that stretch along the corridors. Coils and valves respond in turn, amplifying and stabilizing the resonance. Standing in these spaces, it is impossible not to feel the patience inherent in every pulse, the quiet deliberation of forces far older than any surface civilization. The hum is not intrusive. It does not demand attention. Instead, it invites reflection, slowing the mind, softening awareness, and allowing the imagination to drift along the hidden currents of Ooo. We begin to notice chambers that were likely observation hubs, places where pre-war caretakers monitored the flow of energy, and the subtle vibrations of the hum, and the interaction between machinery and divine presence. Faint charts and etched symbols suggest meticulous study, instruments carefully aligned to measure currents and maintain stability. Even after centuries of dormancy, the network continues to function, guided by the careful design left behind. It is a living testament to foresight, patience, and a reverence for forces far beyond ordinary understanding. In some corners, the hum seems almost conscious. Subtle modulations respond to the slightest movement, to vibrations carried along the stone, and perhaps even to the thoughts of those who walk these halls. Coils pulse with faint awareness. Conduits shimmer with gentle energy, and crystalline nodes refract light in patterns that shift imperceptibly with the flow. The hum becomes not just sound, but presence, a subtle, ever-present reminder that beneath Ooo, energy and consciousness endure in quiet vigilance, patiently observing and preserving the delicate balance of the underground network. Deeper still, we encountered chambers where the hum resonates with immense clarity. Massive crystalline structures rise from the floors, their facets catching the faint glow of ambient light, scattering soft reflections across walls and machinery. Here the vibrations are slow, deep, almost meditative, echoing through stone and conduit alike. The hum carries not just energy, but memory, intention, and awareness. It seems to speak of patience, of careful stewardship, of a world preserved in quiet resonance long after the caretakers and surface civilizations have disappeared. Alongside the hum, faint traces of ancient markings and relics suggest the intersection of machinery and magic. Small instruments, panels etched with symbols, and conduits aligned with precision hint that the hum was cultivated, monitored, and preserved deliberately. Some theorists believe that these chambers were designed to maintain a continuous connection between the slumbering gods, pre-war machinery, and the surface world above. The hum, in this view, is a thread of continuity, a pulse that preserves balance and memory, quietly guiding energy in ways that are subtle, enduring, and almost imperceptible. Walking through these halls, one begins to sense that the hum is more than a sound or vibration. It is a force that links past, present, and future, a patient rhythm that threads through every coil, conduit, and crystalline node. The machinery and magical constructs do not merely sustain energy. They preserve history, consciousness, and intention. The hum is a lullaby for the underground, a quiet heartbeat that slows thought, softens perception, and invites gentle reflection on the vast, hidden forces at work beneath Ooo. In the quietest moments, when the hum is most perceptible, it becomes almost tangible. It brushes against the skin, resonates in the chest, and threads through the mind, creating a sensation that is both calming and profound. The rhythmic vibrations, layered over centuries of careful design, encourage slow breathing, gentle contemplation, and a meditative awareness of the forces that shape the hidden world. It is a reminder that beneath Ooo, even in the absence of visible movement, energy endures, consciousness persists, and history continues in a patient, eternal rhythm. As we venture deeper, the hum grows more intricate, weaving through chambers like a quiet river of energy. The conduits and crystalline nodes seem to respond almost instinctively to its rhythm, pulsing and refracting light in gentle, hypnotic patterns. It feels as though the entire underground network has been composed with intention, each element tuned to resonate with the vast, unseen forces that slumber nearby. The hum is steady, patient, and unfaltering, a soft chorus that stretches across time and space, reminding us that beneath Ooo, some things endure beyond the memory of even the oldest surface civilizations. In these deeper halls, we find remnants of ancient observation posts, panels etched with faint symbols, instruments left in perpetual calibration, and conduits that wind meticulously through the chambers all hint at a civilization that revered the hum, that studied its nuances, and carefully maintained its flow. It seems clear that the pre-war inhabitants understood the hum as a living pulse, a connection to the slumbering gods and the energies that shaped the land. Their work was patient and deliberate, a meditation of design and care, ensuring that the resonance would endure long after they themselves were gone. Some chambers are vast enough that the hum becomes almost tangible, wrapping around the body and threading through the mind. The crystalline nodes embedded in floors and walls pulse in synchrony, scattering light in gentle, shifting patterns that trace the energy through the hall. Coils and conduits rise in elegant spirals, their soft vibrations blending with the broader resonance to create a layered meditative rhythm. It is easy to imagine that these structures act as amplifiers, preserving not just the energy of the gods, but also fragments of memory, intention, and consciousness. Here time feels suspended, the mind slows, and awareness becomes quiet and reflective. In some of the smaller side chambers, we find delicate instruments that appear to have been designed for monitoring and subtle adjustment. Faded etchings hint at measurements of energy flow, magical resonance, and vibration frequency. Valves remain poised, levers fixed, and conduits continue to hum in gentle oscillations. Even after centuries of dormancy, the network operates in quiet harmony, as though the hum is self-sustaining, guided by the intricate design left by those who understood the patience and reverence required to preserve forces far older and vaster than themselves. Occasionally, the hum changes subtly, adding low overtones that ripple across stone and machinery. These shifts are not sudden or jarring. They are deliberate and flowing, a quiet modulation that enriches the resonance. Some theorists suggest that these variations may correspond to the presence of the slumbering gods, their consciousness extending through the network in pulses that are slow, gentle, and observant. The hum is not only a vestige of energy, it is an active force, quietly interacting with the world around it, maintaining balance and preserving continuity beneath the surface of Ooo. As we reach the heart of one particularly immense chamber, the hum becomes layered and resonant, filling every corner with sound and vibration that is simultaneously soothing and awe-inspiring. The crystalline nodes embedded in the floor pulse in subtle waves, conduits spiral toward the ceiling, and soft reflections of light stretch across machinery and walls. Standing here, one can almost sense the presence of the gods in the vibrations themselves, their consciousness threading through the network, patient and deliberate. It is a reminder that beneath Ooo, there are forces that endure beyond time, quietly maintaining harmony, observation, and flow. Throughout these chambers, faint traces of pre-war caretakers' work are still visible. Small alcoves hold instruments, panels etched with meticulous markings, and conduits arranged with precision to guide the hum. Every element reflects intention and care, a careful stewardship designed to preserve the resonance for centuries. Even in their absence, the hum continues, a testament to their foresight and understanding of the delicate forces they tended. The sound is more than energy. It is memory, preservation, and quiet vigilance rendered audible in a patient, eternal rhythm. Some theorists speculate that the hum is more than just a byproduct of machinery or residual magic. It may serve as a bridge, linking the slumbering gods, pre-war technology, and the energy that flows to the surface. Through it, the network maintains balance, channels power, and perhaps even communicates subtle patterns that guide life above without drawing attention to itself. It is a force that cannot be rushed or forced, but only respected, observed, and harmonized with. The hum teaches patience, persistence, and the quiet beauty of enduring presence. As we pause to take in the scale and subtle complexity of these chambers, it becomes clear that the hum is both living and eternal. It is the soft pulse of forces that never truly sleep, the gentle rhythm of energy that threads through time, machinery, and consciousness. Standing in the center of one of the largest halls, the layered resonance seems to slow even the perception of time, inviting deep reflection. It is a lullaby of Oo's hidden past, a patient heartbeat that endures beyond generations, quietly shaping the hidden world beneath the surface. As we linger in the deepest reaches of the underground network, the hum envelops us completely, a persistent vibration that resonates through stone, metal, and crystalline nodes alike. It is steady, unwavering, and expansive, threading through every corner of the hidden halls, filling them with a presence that feels alive, deliberate, and almost sentient. It is not harsh or intrusive, but soft, hypnotic, and profoundly calming. A lullaby not for individuals, but for the world itself, stretching across centuries and binding together the energies of gods, machinery, and the land above. In these vast chambers, the hum interacts with the environment in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Crystalline nodes pulse with gentle radiance, casting slow-moving patterns of light along walls and floors. Coils vibrate in harmony. Conduits shimmer with energy, and faint currents trace intricate paths that suggest design beyond mere function. The machinery itself seems to breathe with the hum, moving ever so slightly, adjusting, responding, preserving. Standing here, it is impossible not to feel that the underground network is alive, not with thought as we understand it, but with awareness, patience, and purpose. As we explore further, we encounter small alcoves where pre-war caretakers once recorded observations, measured vibrations, and tended the energy flows. Etched panels display faded symbols, instruments remain in precise alignment, and conduits run along walls in deliberate, harmonious patterns. These chambers speak of patience and reverence, a careful understanding of the forces they interacted with. The caretakers seem to have known that the hum is more than residual energy. It is memory, presence, and quiet influence, requiring careful observation and delicate stewardship to maintain balance across centuries. Occasionally, subtle variations in the hum reveal themselves, delicate pulses that seem almost intentional. They ripple across crystalline nodes, coils, and conduits, layering the resonance with faint harmonic overtones. Some theorists speculate that these variations reflect the distant awareness of the slumbering gods, their consciousness threading through the network, slow and deliberate, harmonizing with the flow of energy. The hum, in this sense, becomes a bridge between the dormant, divine presence, the machinery that sustains it, and the surface world above, linking forces that span both time and scale in quiet, patient unity. In some of the largest halls, the hum is tangible enough to feel like a soft vibration through the chest and along the spine, a rhythm that slows the mind, softens the heartbeat, and encourages introspection. Crystalline nodes scatter gentle light across the halls, creating shifting reflections that mirror the layers of resonance. Coils pulse softly. Conduits hum with steady energy, and every element seems aligned to preserve harmony. Here it becomes clear that the hum is not passive. It is active, enduring, and intricately connected to everything beneath Ooo, quietly maintaining balance in a way that is as old as the bunkers themselves. Deeper corridors reveal traces of energy management on a level both subtle and profound. Small nodes, conduits, and panels indicate that the hum may have been calibrated, maintained, and observed for centuries. Every element reflects an understanding that forces of this magnitude cannot be left to chance. The pre-war caretakers were not simply builders. They were stewards, tending to energy, magic, and divine presence in patient, meticulous rhythm. The hum continues to flow long after they are gone, a living testament to their foresight and the enduring nature of the forces they safeguarded. In quiet moments, the hum becomes a companion to thought, a gentle resonance that encourages reflection on time, patience, and the hidden layers of the world. Each pulse carries a sense of intention. Every vibration suggests awareness, And the interplay of light and energy creates a sensory meditation that is both calming and awe-inspiring. The hum whispers of forces that endure beyond the visible, that thread through the earth and machinery, that connect the slumbering gods to the land above, quietly shaping life in ways both subtle and profound. Even in the farthest, darkest corners, the hum never fades. It is constant, tireless, and patient, a persistent presence that outlasts civilizations and caretakers alike. Crystalline nodes pulse with steady rhythm, conduits carry energy along silent paths, and machinery responds with the quiet obedience of deliberate design. The hum becomes a lullaby for Ooo itself, a patient, eternal rhythm that preserves balance, memory, and awareness beneath the surface. As we pause to absorb this quiet magnificence, the hum seems to invite stillness. Shadows shift slowly across walls, light refracts in gentle arcs, and vibration flows beneath every step. In its presence, the mind slows, the heartbeat softens, and awareness stretches outward, feeling the patient rhythm that threads beneath Ooo. It is a reminder that some forces endure not in action, but in presence, not in noise, but in quiet resonance that persists across the ages. And so the hum that never dies continues its eternal vigil. It is the voice of hidden energy, a lullaby of history, a thread connecting the slumbering gods, pre-war technology, and the world above. It teaches patience, reverence, and the quiet beauty of persistence. Beneath Ooo, time itself seems suspended, held gently in the rhythm of energy that flows through stone, metal, and crystal. In its patient resonance, we are reminded that even in stillness, life, memory, and power endure, quietly shaping the hidden world beneath our feet. As we move deeper into the hidden world beneath Ooo, the air itself feels different. It is cooler here, heavier with quiet energy, and faintly scented with the metallic tang of ancient machinery. Shadows stretch longer along the stone walls, and every footstep carries the soft echo of centuries past. In this subterranean realm, reflections appear in pools of still water that collect in the deeper recesses of the halls. Each ripple in these pools catches the soft, refracted light from crystalline nodes and faint conduits, creating shimmering patterns that seem almost alive. It is here in these depths that the hidden heart of Ooo reveals itself, not in grandeur, but in subtle, patient resonance. The pools of water mirror more than just light. They mirror the hum that threads through the halls. Gentle vibrations ripple across the surface, reflecting not only the physical architecture, but the invisible currents of energy that flow throughout the network. Each shimmer is a reflection of the persistent pulse that has endured for centuries, a quiet dialogue between stone, crystal, machinery, and the slumbering gods. As we pause at the edge of one of these pools, it feels as though the depths themselves are aware, observing with infinite patience, patiently waiting for understanding without ever demanding attention. In this deepest layer, we find chambers where light and water intertwine in mesmerizing patterns. Crystalline nodes pulse in sync with the hum, their reflections in the still water multiplying and stretching across walls, creating a quiet symphony of color and motion. Conduits spiral elegantly, directing currents of energy both through the machinery and along the subterranean stone, and the soft oscillations of valves and coils add a subtle cadence to the visual harmony. Standing here, it is almost impossible not to feel connected to the flow, to the patient rhythm that threads through every element of these hidden halls. Here, pre-war technology merges seamlessly with divine presence. Panels etched with symbols glow faintly, their inscriptions refracting light across the water's surface. Instruments left by long-gone caretakers hum quietly in alignment with the pulse of the underground network. Every device, every conduit, Every crystalline node seems deliberately positioned to harmonize with the energy flowing beneath Ooo. It is as though these halls were designed not only to preserve power, but to reflect it, creating a mirror of the hidden world above and the forces that have shaped it for countless centuries. Some theorists suggest that the pools themselves act as amplifiers or recorders of energy, capturing the hum and translating it into subtle patterns of light and motion. The reflections ripple with information, tracing currents of magic and machinery, perhaps even faint consciousness from the slumbering gods. The effect is hypnotic. Watching the ripples, one begins to perceive the flow of time differently. Centuries seem to stretch and fold within the reflections, each pulse of light and vibration a gentle reminder of the patience and careful design that underpins this hidden world. As we navigate through these reflective chambers, it becomes clear that the deepest sections of Oo's underground network are designed to encourage observation and contemplation. Small alcoves hold instruments for monitoring energy flows. Etched panels display measurements and subtle diagrams, and conduits trace complex spiraling paths along walls, floors, and ceilings. The design suggests not only utility but meditation, a careful, quiet orchestration meant to preserve awareness, balance, and harmony within the network itself. In this realm, science, magic, and divine influence converge seamlessly, and the reflections in water, light, and crystalline nodes offer glimpses into the extraordinary patience of those who once tended it. In some chambers, the reflections appear almost alive. Faint distortions in the water's surface echo the subtle vibrations of the hum, creating patterns that shift and evolve in ways that feel deliberate. Coils pulse softly, conduits shimmer, and crystalline nodes emit gentle glows that refract and multiply across the walls. These reflections seem to capture fragments of the past, presenting them not as static images, but as flowing, temporal echoes that move through space alongside the energy of the hum. Standing here, it is easy to feel a sense of continuity, a thread linking the slumbering gods, the pre-war caretakers, and the hidden world above. The reflective pools also seem to serve as silent witnesses. They carry no sound of speech, no active intervention, yet their surfaces hold the quiet memory of all that has occurred in these chambers. Energy flows beneath, around, and through them, shaping the reflections in subtle ways. Even centuries after the pre-war civilization vanished, the pools mirror their intentions, the machinery amplifies their foresight, and the hum persists as an eternal reminder of patient vigilance. Every ripple, every shimmer, every pulse of light becomes part of a lullaby for Ooo itself, a soft, persistent rhythm that endures beneath the surface. In this deepest layer, we also find evidence of careful calibration. Conduits are aligned with near-perfect precision, crystalline nodes are positioned to optimize resonance, and panels are etched with patterns that seem almost ceremonial. Each element reflects understanding and patience, as though the creators knew that the forces they were preserving, energy, magic, divine presence, require centuries of quiet observation to maintain. The reflections in the pools echo this care, amplifying light, energy, and presence in delicate harmony, creating a meditation of form, color, and motion that slows perception and deepens awareness. As we move further into these mirrored halls, the reflections begin to reveal patterns that are subtle yet striking. Pools of water catch the light from crystalline nodes and refract it across the walls and ceilings, creating delicate, shifting mosaics that trace the pathways of energy. The conduits, spiraling coils, and faintly vibrating machinery all contribute to this visual symphony. Their movements slow and deliberate, synchronized with the persistent hum that threads through every corner of the subterranean network. Here, the reflections do more than illuminate the chambers. They trace the flow of hidden forces, offering glimpses of currents that connect past, present, and perhaps even future. In some chambers, the pools appear to serve as conduits themselves, reflecting not only light, but subtle currents of energy. The ripples and gentle vibrations in the water correspond with soft pulses from the crystalline nodes, amplifying the hum in ways that feel almost intentional. One can imagine the pre-war caretakers studying these patterns, using the reflections as guides to understand the flow of energy and the interplay between machinery and the slumbering gods. The reflections carry memory, intention, and a quiet guidance, offering insight without ever demanding observation, and creating a meditative environment that encourages patience and awareness. As we follow the reflective paths, the chambers grow larger, the hum more resonant, and the reflections more complex. Layers of light interact with the water and crystals to form shifting patterns that feel alive, subtle movements that suggest awareness rather than randomness. Coils pulse gently, conduits shimmer with faint energy, and crystalline nodes radiate soft glows that refract endlessly in the mirrored surfaces. Standing amidst these patterns, it is easy to feel connected to something far greater than oneself, a slow, patient presence that extends across the hidden layers of Ooo, bridging machinery, magic, and divine influence. In the deepest chambers, reflections serve another purpose as well. They act as a record, preserving fragments of the pre-war civilization's knowledge and the enduring presence of the slumbering gods. Etched panels, faint diagrams, and aligned conduits all appear mirrored in the water, creating a visual archive of intention and design. Here, the reflections are not simply aesthetic. They encode patterns of energy, harmonics of the hum, and perhaps even traces of consciousness that persist across centuries. It is a space designed not just to preserve, but to communicate, quietly transmitting information in rhythm and light to those who are patient enough to notice. Some theorists speculate that the reflections may even act as a subtle interface between the hidden world beneath Ooo and the land above. Currents of energy, guided by conduits and amplified by crystalline nodes, might interact with surface phenomena, influencing growth, magic, and the flow of time in ways that are imperceptible yet enduring. The pools mirror this delicate interplay, revealing the unseen connections between slumbering gods, machinery, and the broader world. Each ripple, each shimmer, each soft flicker of light becomes a thread linking the hidden network with the life that continues above, a quiet testimony to the patience and foresight of those who built it. Walking through these reflective chambers, one cannot help but notice the meticulous care evident in every detail. Conduits are arranged in elegant spirals, valves pulse in gentle synchrony, and crystalline nodes are positioned with precision that suggests both practical and ceremonial purpose. The reflections in the water multiply these details, creating an almost infinite layering of patterns, a meditation of light, vibration, and subtle energy that slows thought and encourages a deep, reflective awareness. The hum, the reflections, and the carefully aligned machinery together form a quiet symphony, a lullaby for the hidden heart of Ooo. In some chambers, faint currents of air move across the water's surface, causing ripples that interact with the refracted light, creating delicate, shifting designs that feel almost alive. It is here that the presence of the slumbering gods feels most tangible. The hum, amplified and echoed through reflections and water, seems to carry intention, subtle awareness, and quiet patience. The chambers are not silent. They are observant, alive with gentle energy and perfectly attuned to the interplay of machinery, magic, and divine slumber. The reflections also serve to extend the reach of the hum, carrying subtle vibrations across larger distances than the mechanical conduits alone could manage. Each pool becomes both a mirror and an amplifier, translating energy into motion and light, gently sustaining the network and reinforcing the patient rhythm that threads through the underground halls. In this way, the hidden heart of Ooo does more than preserve energy. It creates a continuous meditation of form, light, and resonance that endures across centuries, linking past caretakers, slumbering gods, and the world above in quiet, deliberate harmony. As we move further into these mirrored halls, the reflections begin to reveal patterns that are subtle yet striking. Pools of water catch the light from crystalline nodes and refract it across the walls and ceilings, creating delicate, shifting mosaics that trace the pathways of energy. The conduits, spiraling coils, and faintly vibrating machinery all contribute to this visual symphony, their movements slow and deliberate, synchronized with the persistent hum that threads through every corner of the subterranean network. Here the reflections do more than illuminate the chambers. They trace the flow of hidden forces, offering glimpses of currents that connect past, present, and perhaps even future. In some chambers, the pools appear to serve as conduits themselves, reflecting not only light, but subtle currents of energy. The ripples and gentle vibrations in the water correspond with soft pulses from the crystalline nodes, amplifying the hum in ways that feel almost intentional. One can imagine the pre-war caretakers studying these patterns, using the reflections as guides to understand the flow of energy, the interplay between machinery and the slumbering gods. The reflections carry memory, intention, and a quiet guidance, offering insight without ever demanding observation, and creating a meditative environment that encourages patience and awareness. As we follow the reflective paths, the chambers grow larger, the hum more resonant, and the reflections more complex. Layers of light interact with the water and crystals to form shifting patterns that feel alive, subtle movements that suggest awareness rather than randomness. Coils pulse gently, conduits shimmer with faint energy, and crystalline nodes radiate soft glows that refract endlessly in the mirrored surfaces. Standing amidst these patterns, it is easy to feel connected to something far greater than oneself, a slow, patient presence that extends across the hidden layers of Ooo, bridging machinery, magic, and divine influence. In the deepest chambers, reflections serve another purpose as well. They act as a record, preserving fragments of the pre-war civilization's knowledge and the enduring presence of the slumbering gods. Etched panels, faint diagrams, and aligned conduits all appear mirrored in the water, creating a visual archive of intention and design. Here, the reflections are not simply aesthetic. They encode patterns of energy, harmonics of the hum, and perhaps even traces of consciousness that persist across centuries. It is a space designed not just to preserve, but to communicate, quietly transmitting information in rhythm and light to those who are patient enough to notice. Some theorists speculate that the reflections may even act as a subtle interface between the hidden world beneath Ooo and the land above. Currents of energy, guided by conduits and amplified by crystalline nodes, might interact with surface phenomena, influencing growth, magic, and the flow of time in ways that are imperceptible yet enduring. The pools mirror this delicate interplay, revealing the unseen connections between slumbering gods, machinery, and the broader world. Each ripple, each shimmer, each soft flicker of light becomes a thread linking the hidden network with the life that continues above, a quiet testimony to the patience and foresight of those who built it. Walking through these reflective chambers, one cannot help but notice the meticulous care evident in every detail. Conduits are arranged in elegant spirals, valves pulse in gentle synchrony, and crystalline nodes are positioned with precision that suggests both practical and ceremonial purpose. The reflections in the water multiply these details, creating an almost infinite layering of patterns, a meditation of light, vibration, and subtle energy that slows thought and encourages a deep, reflective awareness. The hum, the reflections, and the carefully aligned machinery together form a quiet symphony, a lullaby for the hidden heart of Ooo. In some chambers, faint currents of air move across the water's surface, causing ripples that interact with the refracted light, creating delicate, shifting designs that feel almost alive. It is here that the presence of the slumbering gods feels most tangible. The hum, amplified and echoed through reflections in water, seems to carry intention, subtle awareness, and quiet patience. The chambers are not silent. They are observant, alive with gentle energy and perfectly attuned to the interplay of machinery, magic, and divine slumber. The reflections also serve to extend the reach of the hum, carrying subtle vibrations across larger distances than the mechanical conduits alone could manage. Each pool becomes both a mirror and an amplifier, translating energy into motion and light, gently sustaining the network and reinforcing the patient rhythm that threads through the underground halls. In this way, the hidden heart of Ooo does more than preserve energy. It creates a continuous meditation of form, light, and resonance that endures across centuries, linking past caretakers, slumbering gods, and the world above in quiet, deliberate harmony. As we linger in the central chamber, the reflections ripple gently across the pools, scattering light in slow, mesmerizing patterns. The crystalline nodes pulse with steady, deliberate rhythm, their glow refracted countless times in the still water. Each ripple, each subtle vibration seems to carry intention, threading the hum through stone, machinery, and air, extending outward into the unseen reaches of Oo's underground network. The chambers feel alive in their patience, quietly observing, gently maintaining balance, and holding memory that has lasted far longer than any surface civilization. Here, at the very heart, the convergence of forces is most apparent. Coils rise in elegant spirals, conduits twist with deliberate geometry, and crystalline nodes tower like quiet sentinels, each element harmonizing with the persistent hum. The reflections in the pools do more than mirror. They amplify, guide, and preserve the flow of energy, translating vibrations into a delicate ballet of light and motion. One can almost sense the slumbering gods themselves, their consciousness threading through the networks, slow, deliberate, and patient. The hum and reflections together form a symphony that is not heard in the ordinary sense, but felt in body, mind, and spirit. The relics of the pre-war civilization scattered through this chamber speak of foresight and reverence. Panels etched with intricate symbols glow faintly. Aligned instruments hum quietly in resonance, and conduits trace pathways that capture and amplify every pulse of energy. The reflections in the water mirror this careful design, creating patterns that repeat, layer, and extend across the chamber, transforming the room into a living meditation of light, vibration, and motion. In this space, it is easy to imagine the ancient caretakers walking quietly among the machinery, observing, adjusting, and harmonizing, ensuring that the hum would persist long after they were gone. As we study the pools, the reflections seem almost conscious, responding to movement, to shifts in vibration, and to the presence of those who tread these halls. Light bends, ripples adjust, and energy flows subtly through every node, coil, and conduit. In this way, the hidden heart of Ooo maintains itself quietly, eternally, and without need of intervention. It is a self-sustaining network, harmonizing divine slumber, mechanical energy, and the flowing currents that connect the depths with the surface world above. Walking slowly through the chamber, one notices how the reflections trace the rhythm of the hum, Small disturbances in water ripple outward, creating patterns that interact with light and crystal in endlessly evolving sequences. Coils pulse gently in time with the vibration, conduits hum faintly, and crystalline nodes flicker with soft illumination. Each element contributes to a patient, layered network that seems to extend beyond the chamber itself, connecting the pools, the machinery, the sleeping gods, and the world above in a continuous, gentle rhythm. In quiet contemplation, it becomes clear that the reflections do more than preserve energy. They preserve history, memory, and intention. Every ripple and refraction carries echoes of the pre-war civilization, the slumbering gods, and the deliberate orchestration of forces that have endured across centuries. The hum, amplified and echoed by water, crystal, and conduit, is both lullaby and guardian, a patient heartbeat that threads through the hidden heart of Ooo, ensuring continuity and harmony without ever demanding attention. As we move toward the edges of the pools, the patterns of reflection and vibration grow increasingly complex. Light refracts in shifting mosaics. Currents of energy trace invisible pathways, and the hum resonates in layered harmonics. The entire chamber seems to breathe, moving slowly and deliberately with a rhythm that encourages stillness, reflection, and gentle awareness. It is a quiet meditation on patience, foresight, and the enduring presence of forces far older than any surface civilization. Standing here, surrounded by light, reflection, and vibration, it is impossible not to feel the profound calm of the hidden heart. Time stretches and folds within the mirrored pools, within the gentle pulses of the hum, and within the soft glow of crystalline nodes. The machinery, the conduits, the relics, and the slumbering gods all converge in harmony, creating a sanctuary of patient energy that endures across centuries. It is a quiet, eternal rhythm, a meditation of presence, light, and sound, waiting patiently for those who are willing to notice. And so, as we slowly step back from the central pools, leaving the reflective chambers behind, we carry with us the memory of the hum, the light, and the quiet persistence of the hidden heart. Beneath Ooo, energy endures, history is preserved, and forces beyond ordinary perception continue their patient vigil. The reflection, the water, the crystalline nodes, and the gentle hum all remain, quietly harmonizing the world below and above, a lullaby for the land that whispers through time without end. Good night.